At the Shao family mansion, the patriarch of the Shao family sat there with a heavy expression, also a bit wistful. The current Tang sect master, Tang Ao Ran, sat beside him, also showing a regretful expression, saying, "Brother Shao, this matter is truly unfortunate. I hope Brother Shao can understand." Beside them, Tang Wanwan, looking pitiful, politely performed a gesture of apology, then handed a redwood box to her father, Tang Ao Ran. Tang Ao Ran, holding the wooden box, said emotionally, "Brother Shao, both you and I are like brothers. I do not know how to apologize. Naturally, the Shao family lacks nothing. This is just a small token from me." The patriarch of the Shao family couldn't help but sigh, saying, "Brother Tang, having a further plan in mind is understandable. We can only say that the two children are destined not to be together. Regarding this broken engagement, it's false to say the Shao family feels no resentment. After all, although the Shao family is not as powerful as the Tang sect, it is still a prominent power in the Yu state. The news getting out will inevitably cause a loss of face. Moreover, the marriage alliance between the two families was originally a great plan, advantageous for the long-term development of both families. But in the end, it's just a matter of giving face to the other party. Now that the Tang sect master, Tang Outyin, has lowered his stance, and the two families are indeed very close, there is no need to make things too ugly. Hence, the patriarch of the Shao family, Shao Qingshan, planned to step down gracefully from this stage. After all, even if there's no marriage alliance, there are still many businesses to do with the Tang sect. Adults only see profits. They distinguish clearly between light and heavy matters. But just at this moment, a young man suddenly appeared at the door, saying, "The humiliation the Tang sect gave today, I, Xiao Yan, will remember." Shao Qingshan, seeing this, quickly said, "Yener, do not be rude." Xiao Yan stood with his chest out and said, "Father, there is no need to endure what cannot be endured." Saying this, he stared at Tang Wanwan furiously and said, "In vain, I have loved you deeply, always considering you my true fiancé, but you are not self-respecting, ignorant of your propriety, agreeing to the dissolution of the engagement without any resistance. Do you know how deeply this hurts me?" Saying this, Xiao Yan was already roaring with anger. Tang Wanwan blinked her beautiful eyes and said, "It's not like that. You and I haven't seen each other for 10 years. How could there be? Don't say any more. Tang Wanwan, I want you to know, today, it is not you who annuls the engagement, but I who divorce you. The marriage contract between the Shao family and the Tang family is henceforth void. I, Xiao Yan, remember my words. 30 years east of the river, 30 years west, don't bully the poor youth. By then, the ones regretting will be you." Saying this, he gave Tang Wanwan a fierce look and turned to leave. Watching his retreating figure, the three people in the hall were all silent. Tang Wanwan even wanted to say, "Is this guy an idiot?" But she restrained herself with decorum. Shao Qingshan was also extremely embarrassed, hastily smoothing things over. "Yener is just impulsive, spoiled by me. I ask for Brother Tang and my niece's understanding." Tang Ao Ran sighed. "Youth should have this kind of sharpness. Truly, the tiger father has spawned no dog son." After some awkward compliments between both parties, the earlier embarrassment was barely alleviated. No one noticed that the resolutely departing Xiao Yan wore a face of pain. No one knew that he loved Tang Wanwan deeply. Though not having seen her for 10 years, he loved her nonetheless. After all, he had imagined being in love with her for 10 years, even planning the boastful words about his famous wife after marriage countless times. But the damnable old demon Duan dared to intervene and steal his love. Old demon Duan, don't be arrogant just because you're in the limelight. I, Xiao Yan, will let you know that the future of the martial world is mine. Upon returning to his room, Xiao Yan quickly took out opium from the big money sect and began smoking. During the smoking process, his eyes were filled with melancholy, as if he was a man drowned in the sadness of lost love. Then, perhaps the opium from the big money sect took effect, and Xiao Yan's eyes suddenly turned fervent, saying, A young man should face the wind with a hot-blooded spirit. Old Demon Duan. Today's suffering will certainly be returned 100-fold in the future. Let me train, he said, and went into the inner room, suddenly humming a tune. String your heart and my heart together string by string into a lucky clover into a circle. As he hummed, a green necklace on his chest faintly glowed green. This necklace resembled the human heart, with 7 parts linked together, distributed like the petals of a clover. This was the confidence that made Xiao Yan dare to speak such words today. 3 years ago, by accident, eager to see the excitement, he fell off a cliff, broke his leg, but by a blessing in disguise, he obtained this 7-heart pearl. At first, he only considered it a common object from falling off the cliff, but one night, he suddenly heard a woman singing, "String your heart and my heart together string by string into a lucky clover into a circle." The melody was pleasant to the ear, and Xiao Yan could sing it after hearing it just once. When he hummed along, he connected with the 7-heart pearl. It was as if someone inside kept chanting scriptures to him, telling him things, and through this, he came to know that the 7-heart pearl is a rare magical artifact. As long as he uses it well, he can develop a 7-orifice exquisite heart. The person who cultivates the 7-orifice exquisite heart can possess extraordinary wisdom, mastering the most difficult divine skills in the world. And now, he is very close to cultivating the 7-orifice exquisite heart, because the 7-heart pearl is always closely connected with his emotions. Today he lost his love, his body suffering and hurting, full of resentment against old Demon Duan, emotions running extremely high. And this intensity seemed like nourishment for the 7-heart pearl, making it extraordinarily active. As the 7 heart beads became active, his 7-orifice exquisite heart also became active. The 7 heart beads emitted a green light, clinging tightly to his chest, as if it wanted to merge with his heart. At this moment, his mind suddenly became clear, and his thoughts became exceptionally agile. Or rather, he felt as if he suddenly had 7 brains and 7 hearts, seeing everything in the world differently. It's done. In this instant, he knew that his 7-orifice exquisite heart had succeeded. Old Demon Duan, you are just the stepping stone for me to climb to the peak. Enlighten me. Suddenly, the 7 heart beads emitted a bright green light, casting a ghastly green hue on his face. At this moment, Xiao Yan heard her voice. The woman's voice in the song now seemed like a real person, imparting to him the martial arts truths that should not exist in this world. This voice resonated in layers within his sea of consciousness, forming 8 characters. Return the validation. This is the ultimate truth of martial arts. At this moment, Xiao Yan seemingly unlocked extraordinary wisdom, seeing through everything. That voice told him, since he loathed old Demon Duan for seizing his love, he should defeat him with his martial arts. Return the validation is not only the ultimate truth of martial arts, but also the ultimate insult in the martial world. Xiao Yan had a strong premonition that as long as he mastered old Demon Duan's martial arts, he would become stronger than old Demon Duan and make him beg for mercy on his knees. Tang Wanwan, watch closely, see how I, Xiao Yan, defeat him. Xiao Yan, now full of enthusiasm, was highly motivated to learn. Duan Yun had once shared his teachings for a period, and it could be said that the Jade Sword Sect, Great Hero Storyteller, and the New Iron Blood Sect had all more or less formed due to his cultivation techniques. But what was most widespread in the martial world was his Jade Sword True Understanding. This Jade Sword True Understanding even had several versions. As the young master of the Xiao family, it was easy for Xiao Yan to find such a secret manual. In less than a day, 3 copies of the Jade Sword True Understanding were laid out in front of him. All 3 claimed to be originals, with 2 even exaggerating that they retained old Demon Duan's original flavor. Obviously, this was false, but thinking of the fiancée he had loved for 10 years being taken by this person, Xiao Yan became more emotional, causing the 7-orifice exquisite heart to burn even hotter. Practice. Even though the 3 manuals were not the originals, Xiao Yan believed he could easily master them. because he had the seven-orifice exquisite heart and had comprehended the ultimate martial arts truth of return the validation. There was no martial arts in this world he couldn't master. He would not only master old Demon Duan's martial arts, but he would surpass it. He had absolute confidence, because he had the seven-orifice exquisite heart and return the validation. Xiao Yan quickly browsed through the 3 manuals, finding them largely similar, likely copied from old Demon Duan's original. But this copy was already sufficient. Humph, old Demon Duan, your cultivation techniques aren't that profound. No, they could even be considered quite simple. Seven-orifice exquisite heart, break. That night, Xiao Yan practiced under the moonlight, and when he assumed the jade sword stance, threads of moonlight entered his body. I've succeeded. Continue to break through. In recent days, Xiao Yan had been immersed in training, ignoring worldly matters. His father, Xiao Qingshan, thought he was upset over the broken engagement. Seeing him work so hard, to the point of not even smoking big money anymore, he didn't know whether to be happy or worried. With the support of the seven-orifice exquisite heart, Xiao Yan made rapid progress, achieving new breakthroughs every day. On the first day, he mastered absorbing moonlight. On the second day, he mastered the jade sword finger, which could pierce through walls. On the third day, he was attempting embrace sparrowtail. It could be said that with the seven-orifice exquisite heart, he saw rapid progress every day, making martial arts training a pleasure. I, Xiao Yan, am truly an unrivaled genius. I can easily handle old Demon Duan's martial arts. On the fourth day, Xiao Yan found himself squatting to urinate. After relieving himself, he didn't even notice and continued to train madly. He felt that his embrace sparrowtail was about to succeed, but on the fourth time he relieved himself that day, he suddenly snapped awake, asking, "Why am I squatting to urinate?" At the next moment, he looked down at his crotch, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. "Mine, it's gone." Xiao Yan broke out in a cold sweat, but at this moment, the voice of a woman inside the 7 heart beads sounded again, explaining everything to him. After this, he suddenly understood everything. Xiao Yan calmly pulled up his pants, saying, "So this cultivation technique requires one to become fallen. This proves that I am practicing correctly. The day when I return the validation to old Demon Duan is within reach." That night, although he had been immersed in training, seemingly forgetting his pain, Xiao Yan couldn't help but light up a big money. Amidst the swirling smoke, he still felt a river of deep sorrow for losing his brother. This sorrow was not particularly intense, just quietly flowing within his heart. This is the price of a young man facing the wind with hot blood, returning the validation. After finishing a big money, Xiao Yan had formulated his revenge plan. He did not expect the plan to come so quickly. According to his plan, revenge would not take as long as the 30-year cycle of ups and downs, but it would at least take 3 years to take off. But with the completion of the seven-orifice exquisite heart, his training speed was much faster than planned. At this rate, he might be able to proceed to the next step in a couple of months. Looking into the mirror, Xiao Yan discovered that his already delicate face had become even more refined, or rather, his skin had become paler and more delicate, exuding a youthful and beautiful girl-like vibe. And his revenge plan is related to his current appearance. The 7 heart beads told him this cultivation technique inherently leads to transformation, and as his skills progress, he could become even more beautiful and feminine, possibly even to the point of conceiving a child. So for him, Xiao Yan should be considered dead. From now on, it's Xiao Sooner who lives. Completing the Jade Sword True Understanding is just the first step. After all, old Demon Duan is a dual master of sword and saber, with a vast array of skills. He must master everything the other has learned to complete his return the validation revenge. And the rest of the martial arts may have to be gathered personally, even requiring him to delve into old Demon Duan's demon cave to master the skills. Xiao Yan had decided that he would, when going out, assume the persona of the girl he was becoming, as it would benefit him in his mission. Old Demon Duan wishes to collect famous daughters from around the world, and he is obviously not choosy with women. With her new identity, She plans to create a famous persona to get closer to him, and with her seven-orifice exquisite heart, with her extraordinary wisdom, she would harshly learn and master old Demon Duan's martial arts, bringing his techniques crashing down on him. On that very night, the deceased Xiao Yan, now living as Xiao Suner, couldn't resist and absorbed 3 hours of Big Money's moonlight before going to sleep. In the swirling smoke, Xiao Suner still felt a powerful sense of impending revenge. She must intensify her efforts. That very night, the deceased Xiao Yan, now living as Xiao Suner, fervently absorbed moonlight for 3 hours before going to sleep. She had a premonition that in less than half a month, her jade sword true understanding would be complete, and then she could step out into the world once again. Meanwhile, the deceased Xiao Yan, now living as Xiao Suner, looked at the mountain of gold and silver that the Murong brothers were now shocked by, saying, "My goodness, how much have the Gu family hoarded to gather such wealth? But now it's all good. This ill-gotten wealth in the hands of the Jade Pearl heroes becomes righteous wealth. But there's so much silver, how should we spend it? You mentioned a river project that had the best plan but was too expensive," said Ziyu. "You wouldn't. I'm increasing the budget." The Murong brothers raised their hands and said, "I have a project too. I'm funding it too." The thought of leaving the money to lie idle was a waste. And at that time, people from the Tang sect and gifts from the Tang sect had arrived at Yushir town. "Is this it?" he said expectantly, as the gift Tang Wanwan stood at the entrance of the town, looking at the mountain villa in anticipation. "Oh, how nerve-wracking." Saying this, he held a 4-leaf clover necklace. That was confidence. Return the validation. Old Demon Duan's martial arts progressed further. In the cellar of Yuzhu Manor, the Jade Pearl heroes were discussing the fate of Aunt Shui of the leopard pattern. Mo sect elder Li Mafei was dead, and his mistress had lost her most significant role. Keeping this woman here and constantly providing her with food was quite a hassle. Feng Linger suggested, "Why not just kill her to save on food?" Hearing this, Aunt Shui, who was happily eating some leftover food and had just found a piece of meat, was startled, thinking to herself, "How can this woman be so vicious?" Ziyu contemplated. "I think her body is quite strong. Maybe she could come with me to dig ditches." Duan Yun said, "That's actually a solution. Make her do the hardest work." Feng Linger pondered. "But she's called Aunt Shui of the leopard pattern, said to be as quick as a snow leopard, with a high and haughty spirit. If she finds a chance to escape into the mountains, it would be troublesome to find her." At this moment, Aunt Shui of the leopard pattern couldn't sit still anymore and quickly retorted, "I won't escape. Everyone knows no one can escape young hero Duan's demonic, heroic grasp. My man is dead, and I've learned my lesson. I don't have the guts to escape. Stop thinking about killing me. It seems your awareness is quite lacking compared to the Purple Jade female knight. She thinks of reform, you only think of killing, taking the easy way out." Hearing this, Feng Linger's chest swelled with anger. "Look at this. She even dares to drive a wedge between us female knights. Her intentions are impure. She can't be kept." Ziyu couldn't help but say, "I think she makes some sense in the latter half of what she said. Just killing her might be too rash." Feng Linger flared up. "What do you mean?" As the two women were about to argue, the Murong brothers quickly said, "I have an immature suggestion. Say it quickly. Just let it out." The two female knights immediately flared up with emotion. Can only be said when women start arguing, it's hard to contain the fire. In the end, the Murong brothers looked at Duan Yun and said, "Brother, can you leave this one to me?" Duan Yun was surprised. "Aren't Li Mafei's old mother and the black maid already given to you? Now you want his mistress too. Doesn't Ning Qing have any objections?" The Murong brothers said with a pained expression, "This time you brought back Gold Mountain and Silver Mountain, and now the martial world is abuzz with stories about you having two beauties at your side, one being the greatest in Tianzhou. You have no idea how distressed I am." Duan Yun said, "I went out taking people with me? Why are you distressed?" The Murong brothers replied, "Regardless, I am the young hero Murong, just as renowned as you. You go out with stunning beauties at your side, and I have none. None. It's more painful than you stepping on my face. I beg you, let me have just one. I only want this old one. Aunt Shue of the leopard pattern, despite having issues with being called old, saw this as one of her few chances and quickly said, I can be a mount too. I, Aunt Shue of the leopard pattern, am originally from the highest snow mountain, true to my name, a snow leopard. As a mount, I'm much more capable than those two. Little Een and Lei Ying, who had just come to watch the fun, didn't expect to become involved and added fuel to the fire. I think Heroine Feng is right. This kind of old woman has impure intentions, likely to become a heroic villain. Better to kill her and be done with it. The Murong brothers became more agitated, saying, If you let me have a woman to ride, then don't have one yourself. Let's all be poor and fine. But you had to go out and have someone carry you. If this gets out, people will think us Jade Pearl heroes are penniless and with no mounts. I want one too. Saying this, he was about to roll on the ground, behaving like a tantrum-throwing child trying to cling to Duan Yun's leg. Duan Yun retorted, Look at you acting like a bear. You're a young hero mentioned alongside me. Can't you be a bit more serious? The Murong brothers rolled on the ground. I don't care. I want it. You, young hero Duan, ride beauties and artifacts. I, young hero Murong, merely want to ride an old one. Duan Yun sighed. All right, take her. At this, the Murong brothers were so happy they rolled on the ground. Rolling on the ground both times showcased starkly different emotions from one moment to the next. Duan Yun reminded, First, you must manage this woman with Ning Qing. Duan Yun always had concerns about the Murong brothers' treatment of women. In young hero Duan's experience, dealing with Aunt Shue of the leopard pattern requires treating her like livestock for her to be compliant. While if you imitate the Murong brothers and act obsequiously, you'll likely be bitten back. The Murong brothers said, Don't worry, I report everything to Ning Qing. With that, the issue of Aunt Shue's fate was temporarily resolved. Aunt Shue of the leopard pattern had tears in her eyes. Finally, she could see the light of day. In truth, she was resistant to being a mount for the Murong brothers and somewhat envious of little Een and Lei Ying. Although the Murong brothers claimed to be as renowned as Duan Yun, the disparity in their appearances alone was significant. Being a mount for old demon Duan, even looking at that face every day would improve one's mood. As for losing face as the snow leopard from the snow mountain, having climbed from patricide to become the strongest, most formidable woman leading the leopard pattern gang, and once Li Mafei's beloved mistress, she had initially felt embarrassed, but compared to Lei Ying, it seemed less disgraceful. This young master's wife of the Gu family, being the greatest in Tianzhou, was already a mount, so being a mount was nothing disgraceful. Of course, in Aunt Shue's eyes, the Murong brothers had advantages that Duan Yun couldn't boast. A friendlier approach to women, or rather, following the buffoonish tendencies of many in the martial world, indulging and obeying pretty women. In that case, her mount might one day be able to shit on Murong's head. Actually, Aunt Leopard Print didn't know that the Murong brothers were not only stronger than Duan Yun in this aspect. Although Duan Yun is quite popular in the martial world, accompanied by beauties, renowned weapons, and rides, when it comes to attracting more men to be their mounts, he is far inferior to young hero Murong. Especially in the Yun and Yu states, there are many men who want to be ridden by young hero Murong. No other reason. In the eyes of these men, young hero Murong is handsome. He's tempting. His hips are beautiful. As the group emerged from the cellar, about to decide on what to eat today, a woman's voice quickly came from the entrance of the mountain villa. The Yu State Tang sect is here to present a gift to young hero Duan, congratulating him on his heroic spirit crossing the martial world and his achievements in the heroic land. The Jade Pearl heroes didn't expect the Yu State Tang sect, with whom they didn't have much involvement, to come bearing gifts. Duan Yun had little contact with the Tang sect, and the few interactions were when he killed the Red House madwoman and got to know a young master from the Tang sect. If it hadn't been specifically mentioned, he would have almost forgotten this matter. Duan Yun had some understanding of the Tang sect, known for its deep roots and millennium-old heritage, famous for producing hidden weapons. It is said that in the martial world, Among 10 masterpieces of hidden weapons, at least half come from the Tang sect. In the martial world, with its daily fights and battles, encountering difficult opponents, ambushes, and using hidden weapons are regular tactics. As soon as the Tang sect's exquisite hidden weapons hit the market, even though they're expensive, they are snapped up. The Tang sect thus earns a lot, said to be wealthy beyond comparison. Across the Yun and Yu states, it's hard to find a faction wealthier or more influential. Duan Yun's impression of the Tang sect wasn't bad. In a martial world full of perverts, everyone wanting evil, and everywhere being somewhat villainous, this profiting arms dealer seemed a tad more decent. But them bringing gifts at this time, what could it mean? Have they anticipated his plan to expand the heroic land into Yu State? As the temporary manager of Wangchun City, Feng Linger clearly thought more deeply than Duan Yun. Thinking of future dealings with the Tang sect, she took on the posture of a hostess and said, "Come in." Shortly, 2 women entered from outside. Both were young girls dressed in goose-yellow clothes. The material and workmanship were quite luxurious. Yet at a glance, one could tell they were maids. Because no matter how luxurious the material and craftsmanship, the style was a standard-made attire. In a prominent family like the Tang sect, where maids could dress so well, perhaps it wasn't because the master was kind-hearted, but because he wanted to see pleasing sights. Maybe even the household pets wore silk robes. The 2 maids were carrying an ornate chest, intricately carved with rose petals so lifelike, and it emitted a rich floral scent as if real roses were blooming on it. The chest presumably contained the gift from the Tang sect. However, the Jade Pearl heroes were only somewhat impressed, having just moved Gold Mountain and Silver Mountain from the Gu family. Even if the chest were full of jewels, it would be just so. Duan Yun asked, "Does the Tang sect have any conditions in sending me a gift?" The maid shook her head and said, "The master only wishes to form a good relationship with young hero Duan." Feng Linger couldn't resist teasingly saying, "For such a big family like the Tang sect, this goodwill seems quite cheap." The maid smiled and replied, "The Tang sect naturally is aware of young hero Duan's stature. This gift is not light for the Tang family either, so there's no need for Miss Feng to belittle it." Clearly, this maid came well prepared, knowing the identities of everyone in the villa, and she spoke neither humbly nor arrogantly. Feng Linger was intrigued, saying, "I'd like to see what heavy gift the Tang sect has brought that gives them such confidence." At this, not only her but everyone else in the villa grew curious. The maid on the left smiled and said, "Rest assured, young hero Duan will be satisfied." To show sincerity, this maid will now open the chest. Duan Yun did not stop them, so the 2 maids exerted force, and the ornate chest opened. When the chest opened, everyone's eyes straightened a bit. Inside the chest was not filled with gold nor a dazzling array of jewels, but a person, an exceedingly beautiful young girl. The 2 Tang sect maids were already considered quite attractive, but beside this girl, they were like crows beside a peacock, instantly losing their color. In the next moment, amidst sparkling light, the girl stepped out of the chest. She looked at Duan Yun with a sweet smile, saying, "Young hero, I am your gift." She was stunningly beautiful and her attire was extraordinarily beautiful too. She wore a sky blue, wide-sleeved celestial dress. This dress shimmered like flowing light, yet was light and sheer, like mist or gauze. Through those layers of streaming light, one could vaguely see her exquisite curves. Seeing this scene, Feng Linger, Shining, Ziyu, Laying, and even Leopard Print Ant, who had just come out, couldn't help but grit their teeth, secretly cursing, "Seductive vixen." As women, they knew well that although this attire seemed quite dignified, that tantalizing subtlety was in fact more seductive than wearing nothing at all. One could say that just this attire alone was filled with endless cunning. Seeing Duan Yun with a puzzled look, the girl sweetly smiled and said, "I am Tang Wanwan. My father is the Tang sect master, Tang Ao Ran, and my mother is Su Qingxue, once the #1 beautiful piece of Yu State." Once, Ziyu frowned. As a writer, she had some knowledge of this ranking of beautiful pieces. Tang Wanwan replied, "Because now I am the top of the Yu State beautiful pieces ranking." which is also why I am here as a gift to see young hero Duan. Recently, there have been rumors of Duan Yun wanting to collect famous beautiful pieces from all over the world. Duan Yun himself had also heard, but one can only say rumors fly faster than one can refute them. Even running until his legs broke could not help. But with this explanation, the Tang sect's intention became entirely clear. And indeed, this gift cannot be considered anything but precious. One has to say, the Tang sect, known for doing business, filled every step with cunning. Tang Wanwan continued, "My father admires young hero for his character and style, and I also look up to your demeanor. Therefore, I have come a long distance willingly to be here. I never sought to compete since childhood, so being a concubine is without complaint." This woman spoke so flatteringly, making any small gesture or word a man's delight, putting other women in the Yuzhu manor on high alert. Lei Ying was the first to retort. "The first beautiful piece of Yu State. The fame of the Tigress of Yu State is known throughout Jiuzhou. Does the first beautiful piece deserve comparison with Tianzhou's first piece?" Tang Wanwan replied without arrogance. "Sister Lei, the first beautiful piece of Tianzhou has such airs. I've never married anyone and am still pure as jade. Truly doesn't know how to compare." Her words were gentle, appearing easy to bully, yet made Lei Ying grit her teeth. What a dirty mouth! At this time, Feng Linger and Shining both looked at Duan Yun and then at Tang Wanwan, who suddenly appeared as a gift with displeasure. Lei Ying bluntly self-disclosed, "Even if your scantily rooted Yu State's first beautiful piece is worth something, you're thinking too much about being a concubine. I'm merely a servant here." Littleine added, "No, she isn't a servant, just a mount." Then Duan Yun spoke, "Miss Tang, the Tang sect's goodwill is appreciated, but such a precious gift is unnecessary." Feng Linger and Shen Ying both breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Duan Yun prefers us warrior women, not impressed by this scheming, seductive vixen. Feng Linger had already assumed the posture of the mistress, saying, "Miss Tang, you being clever and quick-witted, you wouldn't misunderstand, right? Yuzhu Manor does not need you. Please leave." Tang Wanwan suddenly knelt down, saying, "Young hero, I have come with sincerity, actually not wanting to be a gift, but to see you in another identity. Since childhood, I've had a dream seemingly out of reach yet close at hand. Young hero, I wish to be a female hero, a true female hero. Only you can fulfill my longing for heroism." Tang Wanwan's eyes were sincere, emotion overflowing. With these words, Feng Linger and others felt a chill in their hearts, secretly thinking, "It's over." As expected, the previously calm Duan Yun's eyes lit up, saying, "Do you truly want to be a heroine? If I'm lying, may I be struck by 5 thunders, smitten by heaven's bolts, childless forever, and as flat as a steel board on the chest." Hearing these words, many people in the villa looked at Shining. What a damned curse! Inside Yuzhu Manor, Tang Wanwan declared her intent to become a heroine with a voice full of conviction, her eyes sincere. For Duan Yun, who always yearned for talent and hoped for a surge of male and female heroes, this was a huge temptation, even more tempting than her being unclothed. Wangchun City now boasts Gold Mountain and Silver Mountain, seemingly lacking nothing, but indeed lacking in talent. Feng Linger immediately interjected, "Many in the world aspire to be heroes, but not just anyone can be a heroine at Yuzhu Manor." Tang Wanwan, with a pitiable expression, responded, "Sister Feng, is my status as the #1 instrument in Yu State and my sincere desire to become a heroine not enough?" "She has a point," Morong blurted out. He is a classic appearance-obsessed man, and Tang Wanwan, in terms of looks and demeanor, is the kind of person who could turn an unreasonable glance into reason, especially since she indeed had a point. So Morong couldn't help himself. Almost simultaneously, 2 thumps were heard as Feng Linger and Shining each kicked him flying. "Yuzhu Manor does not need a bootlicker to speak," Feng Linger said grumpily. "This fool only knows how to hold back their heroine ambitions." At this moment, Lei Ying, referred to as a few hands goods, also chimed in, What kind of tigress as the number one instrument deserves a seat at the table? I haven't even had a seat yet. Tang Wanwan sweetly smiled. I recall that your few-handed madame was first defeated by young hero as his captive. Compared to captives and those purely aspiring to be heroines, one indeed wonders what the comparison would be. Upon hearing this, Lei Ying was so enraged that her chest seemed to grow larger. Meanwhile, Fenglinger, Shining, Ziyu, and others couldn't help but adopt more serious expressions. This pure sly girl from the Tang sect, barely 17 or 18 years old, yet her scheming runs so deep. Being women themselves, they know well the prowess of such women. These women appear pure and innocent, but in reality, they're cunning and seductive, seemingly born to allure men. Their every move easily wins men's hearts. Look at that fool Murong. Without even a glance, he was already yelling in her defense. Such people, even when sold off by this woman to be a duck, would still be grateful that she remembered him, wondering why she didn't choose another man to be the duck. Such deep scheming cannot be tolerated. Thankfully, Duan Yun shouldn't fall for this ploy. At this moment, Duan Yun was already pondering aloud. This place certainly does not sustain idlers. What makes you exceptional? Tang Wanwan respectfully bowed, her gown trailing like flowing light, spreading beautifully like a ripple. In response, young hero, like my mother, I was born with a sensitive constitution, highly perceptive to danger and easily satisfied. This is called the heavenly sensitive saint body, which is also why my mother and I became the number one instrument in Yu State. Heavenly sensitive saint body? Can such an odd constitution make one the number one instrument in Yu State? Evidently, Yu State instruments are so perfunctory. Lei Ying ridiculed. Duan Yun said, "This physique is indeed peculiar. Is there a specific explanation?" Tang Wanwan said, "This physique is most suitable for being a wife." What does this have to do with being a wife? Upon hearing this, Fenglinger was quick to refute. Tang Wanwan replied leisurely, "The heavenly sensitive saint body is extremely perceptive to danger, inherently playing roles of protection for husband, master, and kin. Young hero, weapons once refined to the pinnacle level, will recognize their master. In case of danger, they might autonomously protect their master, and the heavenly sensitive saint body functions similarly. My father wholeheartedly sells Tang sect weapons, and there are numerous people who want him dead, some even hiring top assassins, who specifically bought our Tang sect's concealed weapons to ambush him, yet my father remains unharmed. Beyond his cautious nature, he relies heavily on my mother. Mother exhibits clear danger awareness along with protective effects, several times having sensed my father's danger early, providing timely warnings and intervention, thus preventing mishaps." Upon hearing this, Lei Ying's expression turned gloomy. If this physique truly possesses such effects, it indeed suits being a wife. This alluring male physique seems to exist entirely to please men. Yet, most irksomely, men seem particularly receptive to it. At this juncture, Tang Wanwan launched her all-out attack. "Wanwan is willing to safeguard you always, even if it means dying for you willingly. I only wish to become a heroine. Even if being a concubine has aroused my sister's anger, Wanwan is willing to apprentice under young hero Duan as a lifelong protector." "Oh my! Tang sect's little brat. Shut up. This woman's ability to captivate men is beyond imagination. Is this truly the innate alluring saint body? Born in Yu State, but the opposite of the rumored explosive Yun Yu women? Truly tricky." These were the thoughts of Shining, Fenglinger, Ziyu, and Lei Ying, yet they couldn't voice them, because expressing them indicates defeat. At this point, rebuttals were inconsequential. For by then, Duan Yun was already comforted. Smiling, he said, "Miss Tang, there's no need for such. If you wish to be a heroine, Wangchun City and Yuzhu Manor offer scope for you. Apprenticeship would be too formal." Tang Wanwan pitifully retorted, "But young hero, I arrived here amidst my father's and family's keen expectations. Rest assured, young hero, should Wanwan fail to meet the master's expectations, you may punish Wanwan severely and expel her from your school. Wanwan has no grievance whatsoever." Hearing this, Morong brothers nearly cried. If there were such a woman speaking to him this way, he would gladly kowtow 800 times to her. Duan Yun hesitated for a moment and said, "This? Master, please accept Wan Wan's bow." As she spoke, she knelt in front of Duan Yun, her posture resembling that of a couple bowing to each other during a wedding ceremony. And so, Duan Yun accepted the gift from the Tang sect and gained his first disciple. Tang Wanwan stayed at Yuzhu Manor, her eyes filled with tenderness when she looked at Duan Yun. Feng Linger gritted her teeth, yet there was nothing she could say. At that moment, Tang Wanwan had even called her master's wife. Though initially happy, this pure girl also called Shen Ying master's wife. If it weren't for her intervention, Ziyu might have been addressed the same. Moreover, the woman's behavior showed potential rebellion against her master. But since she hadn't acted on it yet, they couldn't say anything. To say anything would make them appear petty, assuming the worst about others. The news of Duan Yun accepting the first famous artifact of Yu State, the Tang family's miss, as a disciple quickly spread, stirring discussions like 1,000 layers of waves. Could be said that Duan Yun was now at the pinnacle of the martial world, far surpassing those who had practiced for only 2.5 years. This news spread rapidly and wildly because it easily led to wild imaginings. Shocking! Shocking! Faced with the domineering old demon, the Tang sect voluntarily sent a girl. The martial world turns its heart to him. Young hero Duan is thrilled to possess the most famous artifact, and still the #1 artifact. Shocking! Outrageous! The heavens are blind. Old demon Duan not only collected Yu State's #1 famous artifact girl, but also made her his disciple. One can only say the old demon is playing games. Both master and disciple are involved. What does the Tang sect mean? They say they voluntarily sent a girl. Do they plan to oppose the entire martial world? Did the Tang sect ask the heroes of the martial world? Did they ask the 9 provinces? What do your 9 provinces have to do with Yu State? Then did they ask the Yu State people? Who dares challenge the Tang sect in Yu State? Are you going to challenge them? The people of Yu State are too cowardly. It's disgusting. Try coming to Qingzhou, we'll teach him a lesson. Qingzhou is full of real heroes. Most of them are just getting trampled by old demon Duan, yet still cleaning their own face. Shut your mouth. Say a bad word about Yu State again, and I'll tear you apart. Quiet. You all missed one victim. What? Another victim? Jianghu people love to watch spectacles and gossip. Such gossip with a victim is particularly popular and immediately drew everyone's attention. The Tang family's Miss Tang Wanwan, collected by old demon Duan, actually has a betrothal. What? She has a betrothal? How exciting! The engagement between Tang Wanwan and the Xiao family's young master Xiao Yan has lasted 10 years. But just as the 10-year period ended, she went to become a disciple of old demon Duan Star Fury. What do you think the Xiao family will do? What can they do? Can young master Xiao handle old demon Duan? Does he have the ability? Besides, adults only see profits and losses. As long as the Xiao family wants to make money with the Tang sect, what's the big deal? In the martial world, isn't it common for people to send their wives and daughters for business? It's just that you think the Tang sect is so noble and the Tang family's miss is so dignified that it sounds stimulating. Old Li, you sent your wife, and nobody had any reaction. At this time, Old Li in the tea house couldn't help but mumble. It wasn't sending my wife but fulfilling love. Who could blame her for not forgetting him, so I had to let go. This filled the tea house with a joyful atmosphere. The story of the Tang family's misapprenticing continued to spread, and the martial world was highly critical of the Tang sect. Some vowed to boycott Tang sect's hidden weapons, saying anyone who bought them was a dog, only to be killed by a rival with Tang sect weapons within 2 days. Others said the Tang sect had no backbone, that such a family shamelessly currying favor with old demon Duan and offering a girl had lost all face, praising the Gu family for dying with dignity, then secretly buying many Tang sect hidden weapons as they heard prices might go up. Undeniably, the Tang sect's actions caused quite a stir in the martial world. This made some previous famous artifact owners realize there was this kind of option. They couldn't help but secretly curse the Tang family head for acting so quickly, becoming the first to test the waters. After all, with Yun and Yu states being neighbors, there was often a familial atmosphere between the martial world of Yun and Yu, which means combining their strengths. Any attempt by the martial world forces of these two states to move against Duan Yun or the Tang sect would now face double the pressure. Some were already thinking about how to send their famous artifact wives. To their husbands' chagrin, many wives didn't oppose their thoughts much after hearing them. Some even seemed anticipatory. That accursed old demon Duan truly turns women into his servants easily. Yes, in the martial world, Duan Yun's reputation was polarizing. Many criticized and hated him, while fewer appreciated and admired him, with differences between genders. Men were more likely to hate and curse him, while women, although they voiced agreement, fantasized about this demon inside. With his handsome looks, demonic cultivation techniques, and formidable fingers, he had fueled many women's imaginations. But they dared not speak, only silently fantasizing about this demon, Duan Yun. A few days later, these rumors naturally reached the ears of Tang Wanwan, the person concerned. She expressed that the people spreading these falsehoods were overstepping, saying she and her master had an unclear relationship, but inside she was quite excited. Because nobody knew, the inclinations toward a romance between master and disciple were somehow related to her. She had secretly hired someone to spread such rumors on purpose. Duan Yun had no time to listen to these rumors. Because Wangchun City was still steadily improving, and with winter coming, the difficulty of the river project increased significantly. Much soil had turned to frozen earth, making it harder to dig. These matters distracted him, but his heart held another concern. He intended to ascend the heavens once more to find the traces of the thunder god and mother. But recently it had been overcast and rainy, with dense clouds, not an ideal time. If the thunder god and mother were indeed around here, then on a clear day with few clouds, finding the enemy would be easier. After all, the difference between finding a needle in the ocean and in a stream is vast. That day, in winter, the morning was still chilly, with white frost clinging to the rooftops. Yet, for some reason, the heroines in Yuzhu Manor, including Lei Ying and little Een at the table's edge, still dressed in summer attire. Not only were they all martial arts experts, unafraid of the cold, but also due to competition. These vixens, even in winter, wore thin skirts, dressed seductively, so how could I wear thick ones? This was every woman's inner voice. Duan Yun got up, his breath visible in the cold, thinking it would be another gloomy winter day. But just after morning, warm sunlight began to sprinkle down. He looked up at the sky and saw only 3 clouds drifting by. These clouds appeared small from here, like bits of cotton, but Duan Yun knew they were large in the sky, likely no smaller than the area of Wangchun City. But he knew this was the best chance recently. So, he ate a meticulous breakfast personally made by Tang Wanwan and planned to ascend to the heavens. Shining, knowing his plan, said, "Then I'll go too." Duan Yun said, "Things inside the clouds might be quite complicated." Shining replied, "Don't worry about me. I can fly on my own." As she said this, she stretched out her hand, and a point of crystalline white silk shot into the sky. Then she herself ascended like a fairy. Duan Yun followed closely behind. To those in Yuzhu Manor, the two looked like a well-matched pair of Taoist couple ascending together. Tang Wanwan watched this scene, her face still sweet, yet her gaze carried a hint of seriousness. All along, it seemed she had underestimated this steel-hearted woman. This was Shun Ying's first time ascending to the heavens, together with Duan Yun. The scenery Duan Yun had seen before was a first for her, and it was very novel. Duan Yun found that after Shining came out of seclusion this time, her strength had improved significantly across the board. Her white silk definitely had extraordinary defensive capability and aesthetic value, and now she could even soar through the sky with it at a speed not slower than his, which truly surprised him a bit. As the two ascended, Tang Wanwan's expression was complex, but she quickly calmed her mind and began to cultivate her technique. Although she had barely managed to establish a foothold at Yuzhu Manor, To climb to the top step by step, she also had to work hard enough. First of all, in terms of martial arts cultivation, she absolutely couldn't lag behind, otherwise, in today's situation, scheming would be useless. And just as she was about to exert herself, a frenzied shout suddenly rang out within Yuju Manor. "If my fair ladies abound, raising a tray with lowered brows isn't for me. Break for me. Break. Break. Break." In the backyard, a brilliant sword chi shot up into the sky, resembling blooming peach blossoms in winter. This sword chi continued to spiral, forming a blooming flower rain. Not enough. Still not enough. Snow-white sword chi swirled up and met with the peach blossom-like sword chi. The instant the two intermingled, instead of clashing and weakening, they supported each other and rose with the wind to form a gigantic sword pillar, illuminating Yuju Manor half pink and half white. At this moment, the pink sword chi changed once more, becoming a deeper color. In an instant, the sword chi, originally like peach blossoms, transformed into something akin to white snow and winter plums, filled with a sharp cold intent. From afar, Feng Linger's eyes shone green as she gazed at the heavens. The sword chi kept soaring higher, as if intending to pierce through the sky. Whether it was Tang Wanwan, the Murong brothers, or Ning Qing, they were all stunned by this sword chi. Isn't this progression a bit too rapid? Frozen heart, snow bury the foe. The sword chi's icy and snowy intent grew denser, the winter plum blossom completing the picture. Brother Murong exclaimed in shock. "Gone mad." Tang Wanwan said blankly, "Has it opened?" In the Tang sect, throughout history, master craftsmen who forged like gods were always able to create a few masterpieces in their lifetimes that they could never surpass. When these grandmasters reminisced in their later years about why they were able to forge such weapons, apart from good timing and environment, they believed they had entered a kind of mystical, selfless state, which they referred to as wisdom awakening, or opening for short. Feng Linger's current situation was very much like this opening. Clearly, Feng Linger, now with eyes turned green gazing at the sky, as if the sword chi would pierce through the heavens, was visibly stimulated by Duan Yun and Xin Ying's joint ascent. At this moment, another woman's voice resounded. Moon shielding, sword heart illumination. Almost simultaneously, a sword chi as reflective as a mirror rose from the ground, casting reflections of the various faces in Yuju Manor, some ordinary, some pretty, some beautiful. At this moment, apart from Feng Linger, immersed in the soaring sword chi, everyone else, including Panda Dabai and Little Gray the donkey, felt a sense of inferiority and shame in their hearts, as if all their vulnerability and inadequacies had been laid bare under the heavenly light. Big White and Little Gray let out a mournful cry, with Little Gray even pounding its chest and stamping its feet, burying its head in the earth, its backside raised high. The Murong brothers quickly circulated their true chi to clear their heads, which eased the feeling of inferiority. The Murong brothers wiped their foreheads, only then feeling handsome again. Water mirror, illuminate all filth. The next moment, with a loud call from Ziyu, that mirror-like sword chi became even brighter, reflecting the shadows of everyone more clearly. The Murong brothers couldn't help but quip. Another one's gone mad. While Tang Wanwan looked bewildered, another one opened? It was then she realized how deep the waters of Yuju Manor were. These women opening all the time, could she not open too? Yet for a moment, maybe because she was too young and hadn't found the way, she didn't know how to open. Thunder shocking slash. Fire Phoenix emerges from the abyss. This seemed contagious somehow, as Lei Ying's chest suddenly trembled, unleashing all her power. A fire phoenix seemed ready to soar from the gorge of her chest, as if to set the heavens ablaze. These women, one seemed wanting to pierce the sky, another to ignite it. What had the heavens done wrong? Just because Duan Yun and Shining ascended together, and they didn't? As these women opened, little Een sat cross-legged on the ground, her expression appearing tranquil. Just as Tang Wanwan thought she was the most normal, her twin ponytails suddenly moved without wind, spreading gently. 3 parts of chi returned to me. Almost at the same time, on the other side of the graveyard 20 miles away, second sister and third sister suddenly felt a connection and sat down cross-legged. At this moment, the three sisters entered a mystical state, their minds interlinked. It was as if they had returned to the depths of the yellow jade, their sisterhood bringing them back to infancy. Or rather, those yellow jades were their amniotic fluid, maintaining a wondrous connection amongst them. Even with quite a distance between them, little Een felt as if second sister and third sister were right beside her, able to communicate through their minds. And at this moment, she also gained second sister's sharp-hearing ear and third sister's golden light unbreakable abilities. In Tang Wanwan's eyes, her opponent's power suddenly increased over threefold. These people had all gone mad. The Morong brothers and Ning Qing had similar thoughts, but Brother Morong was clearly the calmest. He had seen Duan Yun practicing with a knife with his own eyes. What kind of scene hadn't he seen? Thus his threshold was the highest here. However, these women's power suddenly surged, which was still astonishing. You've all opened, so why can't my brother Morong? Duan Yun can fly to the heavens. Can't this young hero do the same? Failure is the old mother of success. After the last mishap in flying where I got my groin split on trees and rocks, this time, this young hero will definitely succeed. As he spoke, Brother Morong lay flat on the ground, wildly waving his limbs, and the whole person took a backstroke posture and flew towards the sky. Seeing this scene, Tang Wanwan suddenly felt a bit weary. She returned to her room, and the window paper still reflected the sword lights, some red, some white, some mirror-like. Originally thinking she could wander like a dragon in Yuzhu Manor, she suddenly felt the world was so unfamiliar. Are there any normal people here? Through the crack of the door, she saw even pandas outside started boxing. Their punches like cannonballs, power not lost to a sect elder. She confirmed once again that there couldn't be normal people here. Even the animals are martial madmen. However, this also solidified Tang Wanwan's belief that her decision was completely correct. With a group of people and a bear led by Duan Yun, if these people are friends, then it's exceedingly wonderful, but if they are enemies, it's indeed terrifying. In this Yuzhu Manor, Duan Yun is its pinnacle, its upper limit, but these reckless male and female heroes determine the depth of Yuzhu Manor. Before arriving, she was still dubious about whether Duan Yun's party could control a place the size of Wangchun City, and the Gu family was destroyed because they underestimated their enemy. But now it seems it's not that the Gu family and Mo sect got careless or weakened, but that the people in this Yuzhu Manor are more formidable than she imagined. Before, she only had eyes for Duan Yun, not only because she was originally a gift for Duan Yun but also because Duan Yun is the handsomest and strongest. Someone like her should be owned by Duan Yun. Now it seems she not only underestimated that woman as solid as a steel plate but also underestimated others in Yuzhu Manor. She needs to join them soon. Tang Wanwan understands well. If her hard power can't match up, she wouldn't be worthy of being Duan Yun's good disciple. Not even a good disciple, let alone rushing to be both master and student and Taoist couple practicing together. For a moment, Tang Wanwan only felt the weight on her shoulders had grown heavier. Over here everyone has opened, while Duan Yun and Shining are flying in midair. At this moment, the two of them have flown extremely high. Even in these relatively warm winter days, their bodies were covered with frost. Shining had never flown this high before. The white silk on her body kept shooting upwards, creating an effect similar to Duan Yun stepping with his left foot on his right foot. In any case, it didn't make much scientific sense. Shining had been out of the coffin for a while. She had this ability from long ago, but without Duan Yun, she couldn't fly this high. Only someone with Duan Yun's imagination would think of going into the sky among the clouds to find an enemy. This enemy is allegedly very likely the legendary thunder god and mother, an immortal. To go to the sky to find an immortal enemy, this is something Shan Ying couldn't even dream of in her coffin, but Duan Yun thought of it and did it. But after waking up, she heard the story of Duan Yun killing the Source Palace noble. In short, she doesn't want to miss such excitement again. But would there really be something in the clouds? Seeing they were getting closer to the clouds in the sky, Shining couldn't help but feel excited and nervous. just like the first time she and Duan Yun came near the clouds. Even in clear weather, the oppressive feeling of the clouds was still incredibly huge. It was a feeling completely different from facing deep mountains and forests. Because in the deep mountains and forests, even if there are mystical things, you can still imagine some of them, but what's inside the clouds is hard to imagine. People are always filled with fear of the unknown, and at the same time they're immensely curious. The more afraid you are, the more you want to see. This is one of human instincts. However, compared to Duan Yun's state during the last exploration, Shen Ying's state of mind is much better, because last time Duan Yun explored alone, while this time Duan Yun is by her side. Seeing that they were about to enter the cloud layer, Duan Yun reminded, "Inside it's hard to see clearly. It's easy to get lost. You'd better stick to me." Oh! At this point, they completed a connection in midair. Perhaps after coming out of the coffin, having not been Duan Yun's wings for a long time, Shining suddenly felt a bit shy. This slight change was caught by Duan Yun, who couldn't help but say, "Why are you blushing? We're practically an old couple now." Shun Ying retorted angrily, "Who's an old couple with you? Shameless. Besides, this blush is from the cold." Duan Yun knew that when a woman starts talking logic, no matter how much logic you have, it's useless against her. So he obediently shut his mouth and led Shining into the cloud layer. In the cloud layer, the chill was even more biting, and the only warmth they could perceive was from the bodies adjacent to each other through their clothes. This was a coldness beyond walking in snow and ice, a feeling not brought by temperature, but rather a sense of solitude. On the ground, no matter how icy it is, at least you know it's the human world, but in the sky where feet can't touch the ground, it's like arriving in a world not your own, inducing a panic. Just as Duan Yun said, the visibility inside the cloud was extremely low, making it easy for one's imagination to run wild. These imaginations often were related to fears of the unknown. The less you can see, the more you feel there is something in there. But this time, Duan Yun came prepared. His pupil skill was already in play, prying clouds and seeing the sun. The mist was scattered by him quite a bit, allowing Duan Yun to see more clearly. In Shen Ying's view, Duan Yun's eyes glowed blue, giving him a melancholic aura. While traversing the first cloud, despite the pupil skill, Duan Yun didn't find anything initially. Shining couldn't help but wonder aloud, "Do you think there really is nothing in this cloud?" Duan Yun shook his head. "Last time when I came, there was definitely something. Last time he not only heard voices but also seemed to have bumped into something. Just couldn't see it clearly then. But it's the unclear vision, failing to catch the culprit, that makes it all seem like a hallucination. In a hazy environment, it's easy for people to have hallucinations." The first cloud they entered was the smallest, but even as Duan Yun sped up, they spent a whole hour to barely tour it, and soon they entered the next cloud. After using the pupil skill for so long, Duan Yun's eyes felt a bit dry, and he couldn't help but rub them. Soon afterward, he and Shen Ying entered the second cloud layer. Compared to the whiteness of the first cloud, this one was distinctly a dark cloud. Besides being darker, the feel inside was also different in the dark cloud. It was more saturated with moisture, creating an illusion of swimming in water, and Duan Yun, who was particularly sensitive to electricity, found some electric currents in the dark cloud. These currents weren't strong, more like trickling streams, far from the magnitude of constant heavenly thunder. This also explains why thunder is rare in winter. But in Liezhou, even winter has frequent thunder, implying the cloud layers have particular traits. Duan Yun continued using his pupil skill to observe the surroundings, but in the dark cloud, his ability to disperse clouds wasn't as effective as in the white cloud. This cloud was evidently larger, naturally requiring more time. Duan Yun and Shining spent another hour within, both soaking wet without any findings. As Duan Yun thought they might just leave it at that for today, a faint, fragmented sound suddenly emerged. The sound was like someone whispering, plotting unkindly. Such sounds easily bring to mind the word sneaky, like someone sneakily whispering, intending harm. Duan Yun's eyes roamed around, and Shen Ying's expression became tense. Clearly, she heard the sound as well. Duan Yun began to search in the direction of the sound, But within the dark cloud, the sound's location was fleeting, hard to pinpoint. Duan Yun knew Shin Ing hadn't practiced pupil skill, making it harder to help trace anything. But unexpectedly, Shin Ing, as valuable support, proved useful. Because at this time, the fine lines from Shin Ying's hand threads and stockings were flying around her. The 9 Deaths silkworm dream silk was intimately connected with Shin Ing, and part of it linked to her divine soul. As these threads spread, Shin Ing temporarily gained spider-like sensory abilities. As long as the threads attached or sensed something, she could sense it too. Moreover, due to the ability of these threads to extend long distances, her sensing range now exceeded Duan Yun's. At this point, Shin Ing suddenly looked to the right and said, "Over there." Without any hesitation, Duan Yun's figure flickered, and with Shin Ing, they dashed over like the wind. Whether it's a ghost or a god today, they will catch it and figure it out. Relying on Shen Ying's 9 Death Silkworm Silk's perception, the two quickly determined the direction of the sound source. Afterwards, the two pressed together, with only acceleration remaining, charging towards the target at a frenzied speed. During the forward rush, their coordination reached a new peak. If Shin Ing had previously transformed into wings, more like a power source and auxiliary attack role, at this moment, her 9 Death Silkworm Silk pointed the direction, while Duan Yun relied on his pupil skill to see the path clearer. This was a truly intimate cooperation and support, forming a capability where 1 + 1 is greater than 2. Yes, Shin Ing could perceive there was something unusual in this direction within the clouds, but she couldn't see what it was, while Duan Yun's pupil skill could see. The combination of the two resulted in comprehensive perception. As the distance closed, suddenly, an unexpected electric current sound rang out ahead. Duan Yun, who was particularly sensitive to current, only felt goosebumps rising all over his body, instinctively striking forward with a finger. Almost simultaneously, a snake-like electric light lashed out. The electric light from Duan Yun's fingertip was just a tiny spark, appearing very weak compared to this snake-like electric light. But just as a snap was heard, the snake coiled straight, as if hit at a critical point, and powerlessly fell downwards. One can only say there is a distinction even between electricity. As the electric serpent fell, Duan Yun's eyes continued to pry clouds and see the sun, capturing the culprit. Upon seeing the object in the cloud in an instant, a somewhat perplexed expression appeared on his face. Duan Yun had fantasized numerous times about what was hiding within the clouds, especially when that snake-like electric light struck. He heavily suspected it was a flood dragon capable of controlling thunder and lightning. But now presented before his eyes was a bird. An ostrich. This ostrich was different from a normal ostrich in that its head was round, and the bottom was pointed, looking like a woman with a big round face and pointy chin, resembling the kind of sneaky-looking woman who enjoys leading men on. However, it had the true appearance of an ostrich, with coarse feathers entwined with electric light. This electric light seemed substantial, quite robust, practically like an electric serpent lying on its body. Upon discovering its electric serpent being destroyed, the ostrich let out a bizarre human-like scream, similar to the sinister sound Duan Yun heard before. In a moment, the surrounding clouds churned, and the round-faced, pointy-chinned ostrich charged over, wings flapping. 2 electric lights turned into 2 electric whips lashing out, extremely fast, accompanied by a thunderous crack, dazzling to the eyes. Duan Yun and Shin Ing, through telepathy, made their moves simultaneously. These electric whips cracked at a tremendous pace, with 5 continuous changes in each lash, an impressive sight. But the next moment the electric whip went limp. Duan Yun's fingertip demon electricity struck out, causing the whip attacking him to collapse, while Shen Ying's white silk coiled and tore the other whip to pieces. The electric ostrich shrank its head, attempting to escape, but at that moment, a strong hand had already grasped its neck. The ostrich flapped its wings frantically, both feet jumping simultaneously, sparking electricity, causing the clouds to roll, resembling a dance floor scene. Yet the hand gripping its neck remained steady. As Duan Yun's hand exerted force and flipped it over, the round-faced ostrich was flung into the cloud layer. Perhaps due to Duan Yun's fierce strength squeezing its neck, its entire ostrich-round face turned red, its eyeballs threatening to pop out. No, just a snap sound was heard, and indeed one eyeball burst out of its socket, spraying blood. The one-eyed ostrich continued to struggle, but Duan Yun performed a move reminiscent of pole dancing, sliding his hand down its neck, quickly executing a scissor kick to entangle the ostrich's legs, twisting. Snap! Snap! Two crisp sounds echoed almost instantly. The ostrich let out that sinister cry, unable to struggle any longer. It chiefly relied on its inherent power of thunder and lightning, and now that this power was easily neutralized, it was no stronger than a basic ostrich. Duan Yun and Xining discovered that the cloud layer here was denser. Previously, they had to perform movement techniques to stabilize, but here, they could stand just by using regular light body skills. The thickness of this cloud layer was almost like a body of water. At this point, they finally had the leisure to observe this captive. There truly was something in the cloud layer, but it being an ostrich was unexpected. Ostriches usually run on the ground, commonly seen in the desert, so what was it doing in the clouds? Duan Yun and Shen Ying again examined the ostrich, still finding its head resembled a round-faced, pointy-chinned woman, very sinister. Could this thing not only be a demon but possibly a person transformed? Xining pondered. Indeed, the ostrich's face was like a round-faced woman, and the noises it made resembled a sinister human voice, causing her to speculate. She hadn't anticipated that her first climb to the sky with Duan Yun, her first exploration within the cloud layer, would encounter such a demon. Duan Yun felt the ostrich's face was slightly annoying, a classic evil demon look, so he said, "I'll ask it." Beaming divine skill, the dense clouds swirled into a vortex shape. The next moment, Duan Yun clutched the ostrich's round face and began to draw vigorously. This ostrich indeed has true qi, with an electric flavor. As Duan Yun absorbed the true qi, he found it quite potent, comparable to those thunder-listening madmen. Or rather, this ostrich's thunder true qi was even purer than those of the thunder god and mother sex madmen. In terms of true qi purity, it was nearly equivalent to that of the elder thunder madmen. As the ostrich trembled crazily, its memories flooded into Duan Yun's sea of consciousness. These memories were all fragmented, or each segment was very short. Duan Yun seriously doubted that the ostrich's memory usually lasted only 1 or 2 hours, hence the intermittent feeling. Yet he still extracted some key information from the ostrich's memory. That is, the ostrich was originally not an ostrich, but a transforming bird flying in the sky. Normally, transforming birds cannot fly this high, but there are those among the transforming birds who undergo a fundamental transformation, just like how a young hero emerged in the gloomy martial world as the eternal night. In short, this transforming bird was extraordinarily gifted, flying extremely high, even higher than eagles. It had some intelligence, yet not much, thinking only of flying high with all its heart. And one day, probably due to the coming rain, the clouds were especially low. This transforming bird still flew very high, when suddenly, a flesh tube protruded from the clouds. This flesh tube was very long and thin, piercing right into the transforming bird's rear end, and afterward, the transforming bird was dragged into the clouds. Lightning instantly filled the transforming bird's body, giving it a feeling of being violated. Even its beak and eye sockets burst with filthy like thunder. Since then, the transforming bird has been stuck in the clouds, often receiving thunderstorms initiated by the flesh tube. After countless washings, not only did the transforming bird's body become tall and mighty, but its appearance also changed. Its originally bright feathers became quite dull, incorporating more rolling lightning, and as it increasingly resembled an ostrich, the frequency of its cleansing by the flesh tube grew. Gradually, it morphed into its current form. Simultaneously, every time the transforming bird was cleansed, human voices occasionally emerged in its mind, and gradually, it could speak. At this moment, the ostrich suddenly opened its mouth, shouting, "I want to be a hero!" As soon as these words fell, the whole bird began coughing blood. To be precise, what it coughed up didn't resemble blood, but rather plasma. Duan Yun loosened his grip, sarcastically saying, "It turns out it was a transforming bird." Shun Ying exclaimed in shock. Transforming bird became ostrich. Duan Yun quickly scanned the surroundings, stating, "It's like the transforming bird was violated into becoming an ostrich by something in the clouds." Shin Ying was once again shocked, dumbfounded. Transforming bird violated into an ostrich? Duan Yun pondered. I even suspect it's the doing of Thunder God and Mother. He had experienced Thunder God and Mother's aesthetic, characterized by disgusting, eccentric tastes. It's not surprising that it prefers faces with round cheeks and pointed chins on women, coupled with an ostrich's body. After all, there's no ugly thing it can resist devouring. Threads of fear engulfed Duan Yun and Shin Ying, because the transformation from a transforming bird to an ostrich was indeed terrifying, carrying a sensational taste. If this was indeed done by Thunder God and Mother, then if it could transform a transforming bird into an ostrich, could it turn other things into humans? Alternatively, this martial world is mixed with humanoids created by Thunder God and Mother. Those thunder-listening madmen are exactly that. If this is indeed the case, then the madmen are no longer human. They are simply human abominations. If they're not of my kind, their hearts must be different. Luckily, he acted in time, clearing these human abominations and eradicating harm from the martial world. Meanwhile, Duan Yun was more excited. The power of thunder and lightning is indeed infinite. This entity in the clouds can transform a transforming bird into an ostrich, and my lightning skills are unmatched. Why shouldn't it be possible? Extraordinary wisdom, wouldn't you agree? At this point, he couldn't help but say, "Find the originator. Best to catch it alive. Maybe we can research something out of it." At this moment, he greatly resembled MO6 research fanatic Li Dakin. Li Dakin liked studying, and even dreamed of researching immortals, believing that with proper study, humans too could become immortals. And Duan Yun harbored similar curiosity. This evil demon is best drained of value before killing the entire family. Thus, Duan Yun and Shin Ying continued exploring the cloud layers. But subsequently, they discovered nothing more. Duan Yun and Shin Ying floated on the edge of the cloud layer, Duan Yun holding an ostrich, a serious expression on his face. They gained something today, though the gain was both big and small. They found the thing in the clouds, even suspected the ostrich is connected with the Thunder God and Mother they were searching for. Unfortunately, they couldn't find Thunder God and Mother. By this time, it was already dark, and Duan Yun's eyes were somewhat dry from prolonged use of the room pupil technique. There's no choice but to come again next time. As Duan Yun spoke, he carried the ostrich and headed back to the villa with Shin Ying. When the two floated back to Yuzhu Manor, the people there were eating hot pot. During the day, the Jade Pearl heroes practiced diligently, thus at mealtime naturally indulged themselves. The temperature difference between day and night in Yun State winters was quite stark. During the day, there's warm sunshine, but at night it was extraordinarily cold, with frost already covering the roof tiles. And at times like this, what could be a more pleasurable activity than eating hot pot? Poor people fear winter the most because winter is cold and hunger-resistant, and it's easiest for beggars and poor people to perish during this season, unlike the rich who enjoy all 4 seasons. During scorching summers, the rich can avoid the heat, while in the cold winters, they can enjoy hot pot while admiring the snow. The people inside Yuzhu Manor lived like rich people and were quite content. Besides having a gold mountain and silver mountain, making them indisputable rich people, there was a more important reason. At this moment, due to their efforts, the area near Wangchun City, which traditionally started seeing deaths from cold and hunger each year, was all living well this year, eating to their fill. The young heroes were eating hot pot, as were many farmers planting crops and workers helping out in this area. The rules of not collecting taxes and protection fees, along with a relatively stable farming environment, turned previous luxuries into reality. As Duan Yun and Shin Ying descended from above, they could overlook the thousands of lights below. In Duan Yun's perception, the night lights across this heroic land seemed to have multiplied significantly compared to before. Beside an increase in population, more families had surplus now. Oil lamps, which were previously unaffordable, were now lit by many families. Duan Yun and Shen Ying returned to Yuzhu Manor with the ostrich. Murong brothers couldn't help but exclaim in shock, "You floated in the sky for an entire day?" He had also practiced his lying skill today, managed to float in the sky for half a day, albeit without daring to soar too high, adhering to a sequential approach. Immediately, he then commented, "Wait, how did you manage to get hold of an ostrich, going hunting without me?" Duan Yun pointed to the sky, saying, "Caught it up in the sky." At this moment, Feng Linger sarcastically commented, "You two went hunting together, admiring the scenery, very normal. Is there any need to lie? Acting as if I'd get angry because of it. Am I such a petty person?" Her eyes were green during her speech, with her chest heaving heavily, clearly fuming. Shining explained, "Truly caught inside the clouds." Feng Linger retorted unpleasantly, "Making it up. Keep fabricating." Then, Ziyu remarked, "This ostrich does indeed seem odd. This resembles Miss Fu Lanhua's face." Murong brothers commented, "You mean the Miss Fu who professed not wanting kids, whose husband was persuaded to undergo vasectomy for her, only for her to end up having multiple kids with several men later?" "No kidding. The well-known Fu surname woman of Wangchun City. Other than her, who else could it be?" Murong brothers added, "Don't mention it. It really resembles Fu Lanhua, clearly a round-faced, rotund woman, yet stubbornly maintains a chin sharp enough to stab." Feng Linger retorted unpleasantly, "Just because this ostrich has a round face with a sharp chin, it no longer remains an ostrich? Could it just happen to be in the sky, within the clouds, coincidentally shot down by our ascending young hero and heroine?" Duan Yun stated, "Actually, it was originally a transforming bird." Feng Linger replied, "Fabricating, keep fabricating." Suddenly, the ostrich on the ground shuddered, its one eye gazing forward, shouting, "I want to be a hero." This declaration startled Tang Wanwan, causing her bowl to fly out of her hands. It was her first time witnessing such a scene, hardly surprising she was scared. Feng Linger's expression turned serious. After all, she knew well that no matter how insipid and perverted Duan Yun might be, he wouldn't use beaming divine skill to transform an ostrich into a hero. And at this moment, Duan Yun's brow slightly furrowed due to habitually overusing the room pupil technique, unable to resist glancing at Shining. The flat chest of Shadow Ying somehow felt odd. Overcast sky, the forest moves with the wind, and when the wind blows, the whole forest makes a rustling sound. Even in winter, the road outside Linning Town remains lush and green, as if the changing seasons or the withering leaves have little to do with it. Wang Deidi from Dashishi Escort Agency walked along the road with his escort goods, feeling at ease. For this experienced escort guard, the toughest part of the journey was over. This was a place where he could relax a bit. Not for anything else, because it was not far from Wangchun City. Nowadays, Wangchun City is practically paved with gold. Farmers don't pay taxes, and businesses see reduced protection and management fees. Everyone is getting rich, so who would still want to be a bandit? Of course, under young hero Duan's leadership, there are many knights in this area. Anyone who causes trouble gets dealt with, and over time, there are no more thieves, robbers, killers, or rapists. Thus, Escort Chief Wang Deidi felt a sense of familiarity and peace walking on this road, as if going home. After days of traveling, they had tangled with quite a few green forest bandits, inevitably spending time and efforts, even drawing swords midway, losing a comrade. It can only be said that the goods they were escorting this time were quite valuable. In normal times, they'd rather do anything but fight. But this time, a band of green forest thieves in Yu State inexplicably refused even the worst concessions. Can you believe it? In the great Yu State, even offering everything didn't work. Wang Deidi just blamed his own bad luck, encountering an entire group of women bandits. The martial world is becoming increasingly chaotic. In the past, some sects were fully female, which was understandable, like the Chongling Sword sect and the Fairies of the Red House, since their cultivation techniques could only be practiced by women, resulting in mostly female disciples over the years. But nowadays, fly-by-night all-female gangs, all-female restaurants, and all-female tea houses are emerging, meaning only women can enter these places, claiming to dislike the gaze of men. And there it was, they encountered these all-female bandits. When bandits must all be women, isn't that madness? These crazy women wouldn't listen to reason, insisted on robbing, leaving them no choice but to fight back. In the end, they lost a brother, while only after cutting down more than 20 of the opponent's members did it end. Only to say these all-female bandits were truly dim-witted fools, or rather, they were overly confident despite their mediocre skills, thinking they absolutely had them cornered. And so, his brother's death was undeserved. Chasing a woman to slash at her, he got too excited, so much so that he suffered a burst of blood to the brain and died on the spot because of it. Thinking of this, Wang Deidi is still furious till now. These stupid female bandits couldn't even escape properly. Truthfully, they dealt with 6 of them with little loss. Any sensible bandit would understand when to back off. But this group of women were both inept and overconfident, continuing to charge, fighting until they were routed. That's when they realized to retreat, causing his brother to fall ill. Reaching this region, the whole team from Dashishi Escort Agency relaxed mentally, because they believed that in the territory led by young hero Duan, there were no all-female restaurants or female bandit gangs. To think initially, Wang Deidi and his group referred to Duan Yun as Old Demon Duan, just like many others, thinking Wangchun City and its surrounding areas were a human world demon cave, utterly desolate, an area they'd avoid escorting unless extra pay was involved. But later, tempted by a client's additional payment, he grudgingly made the trip once. And after that, it was an entirely new experience. How could this be a demon cave filled with corpses? It was more like a heavenly paradise. They had traveled far and wide for years and never seen such a peaceful place. Let alone farming peasants. Even martial artists were busy opening new fields and trading goods. Everyone seemingly living peaceful and fruitful lives, with no bandits having the time to rob our escorts. By now, everyone was tired, both people and horses. Wang Deidi looked at the sky, waved his hand and said, "Keep pushing on. In a few hours we should reach Wangchun City." The escorts cheered, spirits lifted, some already planning to indulge themselves in Wangchun City afterward. But recalling the healthy brothel women there, some were disinclined. Yet others were willing. If you entertained the unhealthy ones, you'd get caught by the wife upon return. Enjoying healthy ones is better. After all, Yunyu men, no matter how sturdy, fear their wives back home. Seeing everyone becoming too relaxed, Escort Chief Wang Deidi couldn't help but remind them, "Stay vigilant and keep your wits about you." The subordinates quickly complied after hearing the directive, making Wang Deidi finally relax as he took a swig of rice wine. The weather was already quite chilly. The faces of the escorts were reddened by the cold wind. During a short rest on the road, the horses ate premium feed, while the escorts casually wolfed down dry, cold buns and steamed rolls. It's safe to say that in the life of an escort, people live worse than dogs. But after an escort trip with Silver, you're the boss. Wang Deidi shook his legs, feeling a bit numb, started to think he might be getting old, wondering if he'd still be up for this after some years. Wang Deidi looked into the distance, where Wangchun City was. He contemplated whether to buy a courtyard there for his retirement life. Surely buying a large compound within Wangchun City would be hard, but outside the city, it's possible to buy a larger one. All in all, for Wang Deidi, who has traveled far and wide, the area around Wangchun City is the most suitable place for a retirement life. This insight was gained from observing more than half of the martial world with his own eyes. Meanwhile, he increasingly agreed with the heroic land that Duan Yun spoke of. This heroic land is truly exceptional. After a brief rest, the convoy continued on its journey. Due to fatigue, the escorts gradually fell silent, focusing solely on guarding the cargo and hurrying along without speaking. But at this moment, Wang Deidi heard someone whispering. Escorting a shipment is tiring work, and Wang Deidi's team never shunned talking and joking to alleviate weariness. Yet, upon hearing this voice, an unsettling emotion rose within Wang Deidi's heart. Even when he tried hard to listen, he still couldn't make out what they were saying. Escorts need to be vigilant and perceptive, and he had been a chief escort for many years, priding himself on his good hearing. But this time, unable to discern what the other party was saying, he couldn't help but feel they harbored ill intentions. Yes, ill intentions, as if they were secretly conspiring something nefarious. As the murmuring continued, Wang Deidi felt uneasy, so he turned back and said, "Stop talking. Focus on the journey. There'll be plenty of time to chat once we arrive." The convoy immediately fell silent, and those rustling voices disappeared. But after a short while, those voices reappeared. Feeling annoyed, Wang Deidi rode on, solemnly chastising, "I said no talking. Who still isn't listening?" During this escort trip, he had brought along some newcomers from the escort agency. It seemed that each year's newcomers were less disciplined than the last, not even understanding basic rules. He thought to find an opportunity to properly train them, as such rule-ignorant individuals were most likely to cause trouble on an escort mission. This time, because Wang Deidi was quite stern, the convoy became even quieter. Even the cargo-pulling horses seemed to hold their breath. Only the sound of the wind howling remained around them. Only then did Wang Deidi continue on the road. He could only say that his previously relaxed mood had been completely ruined by those rustling voices. But just after proceeding for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, those rustling voices appeared again. Things happened no more than 3 times, and this time Wang Deidi was truly angry. He waved his hand, signaling the convoy to stop, and with a sullen expression, he demanded, "Who's whispering?" The team once again fell into deep silence. Wang Deidi dismounted. Earlier, he vaguely heard the voice coming from the back of the group, so he ordered, "Chan Daong, count the people and the goods." Yes, he wanted to observe carefully. With his rich experience as a chief escort, he should be able to discern who might be cluelessly talking nonsense. After all, when he gets angry, who wouldn't be scared if they were guilty? But at that moment, due to the dense forest lining the path, it was dimly lit, and he couldn't immediately tell who it was. His old hand, Chen Daong, efficiently counted the members of the convoy, but as he counted, he gradually slowed down. Wang Deidi raised his brow and asked, "What's wrong?" With a frightened expression, Chen Daong whispered to him, "Boss, there's one more." The worst thing during an escort journey is when someone unknowingly falls behind. Losing someone, but suddenly gaining a person is just as taboo and subtly terrifying. With Wang Deidi's abundant experience, he thought perhaps someone had infiltrated the group. In the martial world, among the Green Forest people, there are those skilled in disguise. Such individuals sneaking into a convoy with ulterior motives, either conspiring behind the scenes or secretly taking away valuables, isn't impossible. Either way, it's a disaster for those escorting the cargo. A chill ran down the back of Wang Deidi's neck as he ordered, "Count them clearly." Li Daong counted again, face turning pale as he said, "Boss, there really is one more. We have 21. The convoy had a total of 20 people, something he had verified upon entering Yun State. Wang Deidi gripped his sword handle tightly and said in a deep voice, "Identify each one for me." Among them were new recruits from the agency, whom he was only familiar with. In this dim environment, identifying who was not easy. The wild forest beside the road was pitch black, as if harboring numerous watchful eyes with ill intentions. Li Daong began identifying people one by one, but after checking them all, he said, panic-stricken, "Boss, it seems I know everyone." By now, cold sweat had started to bead on Wang Deidi's forehead. At the same time, he noticed those rustling sounds reappearing. He scanned his subordinates sharply, trying to locate the source of the voice. But the sound seemed to blend with the wind, imperceptible. Listening closely, Wang Deidi suddenly sensed the direction of the sound. He discovered it was right beside him. Besides Li Daong, who was bringing the people forward to be identified, there was only a thin coffin by Wang Deidi's side. This coffin was used to hold their only good brother, Sun Lin, who had died on this escort journey. Could the sound be coming from the coffin? Was Sun Lin not truly dead? This is impossible. Could Sun Lin have resurrected, become a ghost? At this moment, Wang Dadi's scalp tingled with fear. He waved his hand and said to Li Daong beside him, "Get someone to open the coffin." Seeing his grave expression, Li Daong reacted and quickly gathered manpower. These men were all old masters from the escort agency, who had traveled far and wide, with nerves of steel. At this moment, 3 men held large knives, pointing them at the coffin. Li Daong was responsible for opening the coffin. They had heard of zombie legends and even seen corpse chasers along the road. But now discovering there might be a zombie inside the coffin, the group could feel sweat beading on their foreheads. "Good brother Sun Lin, you were too enthralled in killing, that you died from excitement. Surely this can't be blamed on us, right?" "Don't worry," the boss said. "When we get back, he'll add money for you. A lot more money. He'll even take care of your wife, support her, I mean." Li Daong mumbled to himself as he began opening the coffin. With a flick of his knife, the lid of the thin coffin fell to the ground, and at the same time, the remaining escorts menaced it with their knives. If the body inside dared to move, they would chop it to pieces. But inside the coffin, there was a corpse with bulging eyes. The corpse lay quietly, without making any sound. This didn't look like it was resurrecting. So where was the sound coming from? Could it be he had misheard? At this moment, Wang Dadi also started doubting himself. Just then, he suddenly shivered all over, because in the dim environment, he noticed several tears in Li Daong's clothes. Within those tears were mouths of various sizes. Human mouths. They were gently flapping, emitting a low, deep sound. This time, Wang Dadi finally heard what they were saying. "You've discovered it, huh?" A light, airy voice drifted into Li Dadi's ear, carrying a chill to the core. Wang Dadi flicked his knife, aiming straight for Li Daong's head. As a chief escort, his sword technique was naturally the fastest here, both swift and ruthless, without any unnecessary flourishes. During previous escort missions, he had even decapitated a bear's head with ease. At such close range, he believed that Li Daong wouldn't be able to dodge. But Li Daong dodged. His body suddenly shrank down a notch, performing the most difficult bone shrinking skills in the martial world, something Wang Dadi knew Li Daong could not do. At this moment, Li Daong chuckled and suddenly bounded onto the coffin, saying, "Time's almost up. Look over there." Wang Dadi didn't look, knowing full well this was likely a trick from the enemy, attempting to distract him, and in turning, he could lose his head. But the escorts who hadn't grasped the situation couldn't resist looking in that direction. Upon seeing it, they all displayed expressions of shock and fear. Those expressions also entered the corner of Chief Escort Li Daong's eye. He did not look that way, yet he could see the expressions of his subordinates. This could only prove there truly was something there. Cringing slightly, Li Dadi then saw a giant cloud. A giant cloud had landed in the forest, standing there. Li Dadi believed he had seen countless clouds, even across Zhou. But clouds belong in the sky, yet this one was on the ground. This cloud was very white, like cotton, appearing soft. Yet at this moment, an overwhelming sense of fear filled Wang Dadi's heart. Never did he think a cloud could be so terrifying. On the road, suddenly there was a strange scream, then it vanished. Inside the hero mansion in Wangchun City, a mute girl was continuously saying something to the Murong brothers' mount, leopard-patterned Aunt Shui. Leopard-patterned Aunt Shui, in order to survive, now had no choice but to serve as a hero. Her original intention was to control young hero Murong tightly step by step, and then climb up, maybe even become the woman behind old Demon Duan. After all, no one thought highly of her, but she believed she could make a name for herself. Unfortunately, this woman who came down from Snow Mountain was stopped right at the first step. The reason was that the Murong brothers were typical henpecked husbands, or rather, hopeless flunkies. He wasn't even married to Ning Qing yet, but everything revolved around her. Even though he was busy checking brothel girls' health and wanted a snow leopard mount like her, he mainly focused on being a loyal flunky. Even trivial matters had to be reported to Ning Qing, and she couldn't find any opportunity to squeeze in. No way, the gap was too small. Leopard-patterned Aunt Shue had never hated flunkies so much. Or rather, she hated that the flunky wasn't fawning over her. It's just that she really wasn't suitable to be any kind of young hero's assistant. Every day, if she wasn't being a mount, she was going to the brothel to let the brothel girls line up, or handling trivial matters and talking to the mute here. However, leopard-patterned Aunt Shue was also a person with exceptional talent. As she listened to the mute girl going ABA ABA ABA, she noted down, "You are a woodcutter, planning to stock up on firewood in winter, so you entered the nearby forest?" ABA. ABA. Clearly, leopard-patterned Aunt Shue got it right, and the mute girl was very excited. Beside them, the Murong brothers were astonished and said, "You can even understand this?" Leopard-patterned Aunt Shue elegantly tidied her hair and said, "When I was on Snow Mountain, I understood the language of many animals, let alone a mute person." Hearing this, the Murong brothers were even more excited, couldn't help but puff out their chests, and said, "Truly, old ginger is spicier." This was meant as a compliment, but leopard-patterned Aunt Shue's forehead veins bulged. At this point, the Murong brothers, trying to flaunt their vocabulary, continued, "Truly, an elder at home is a treasure to behold." Leopard-patterned Aunt Shue gritted her teeth tightly. "Murong, you hopeless flunky, if you can't compliment someone, don't." Leopard-patterned Aunt Shue once thought the Murong brothers were mocking her, but seeing the admiration in their eyes and the puffed chest, she felt it wasn't so. The Murong brothers were genuinely complimenting her. The reason was that he felt he had outdone Duan Yun. When he initially took leopard-patterned Aunt Shue as a mount, he was a bit dismissive. After all, compared to Duan Yun's little Een and Laying, leopard-patterned Aunt Shue was inferior in terms of figure, appearance, and status, not to mention older. But at this moment, when leopard-patterned Aunt Shue showcased this amazing talent, the Murong brothers felt capable again. "My mount can communicate with animals, understand what a mute says. Can old demon Duans do that? Can it? Yours is just younger, a bit prettier, a bit more capable. I'm not envious at all." At this point, leopard-patterned Aunt Shue was confused. "You said it was a group of medicine merchants before, and yesterday a security escort team went missing?" The mute girl nodded vehemently. Hearing this, the Murong brothers became serious. This so-called listening to the voices of the people was initially started by Duan Yun, and the Jade Pearl heroes took turns at it for half a day, but the Murong brothers thought it was all trivial. But now they realized it wasn't just trivial matters. The reason it was all trivial was due to Wangchun City's surroundings being too peaceful. No way, young heroes had endless punitive measures. Dying of urination on the spot in the market was a light punishment, and with everyone having food to plant and money to earn, who would dare to risk being tortured by heroic justice to cause trouble? But today, the Murong brothers heard about a missing case. A significant missing case. Whether it's a medicine merchant group or a security escort team suddenly disappearing, this matter is no small issue. The safety of medicinal materials and the transport of secured goods essentially represented the safety of Wangchun City's pathways. Wangchun City aims to be inclusive like an ocean, to expand the influence of heroic land to the maximum. Such matters must be firmly stopped. Just like if there are tigers on the road, naturally no one would dare to come. However, the Murong brothers were still curious about who dared to stir trouble on Tai Sui's head. It must be known that under the joint leadership of him and Duan Yun, the Jade Pearl heroes were incredibly formidable. Hardly anyone in the martial world dared to provoke them anymore because they really would punish at a distance. If someone provoked them even far away, they'd wipe out the entire family. The Murong brothers promptly stood up, exuding heroic spirit, and said, "Where is it? Let her lead us there." The mute girl looked very scared, and the Murong brothers reassured, "With young hero Murong here, even gods and Buddhas wouldn't dare to act rashly." Probably due to the famed name of the Jade Pearl heroes and the Murong brothers' honest and sincere appearance, the mute girl nodded and planned to lead the way. The Murong brothers stretched a bit, feeling a burst of heroism, and shouted, "Let's go! My snow leopard!" Leopard-patterned Aunt Shue gave him a disdainful look, but in the end, she bent her body, took up the seat, and lifted him onto her back. Young hero Murong had considered the possibility of carrying a person beforehand, so the seat was a double seat, allowing the mute girl to sit as well. Then, leopard-patterned Aunt Shue started running. Don't doubt it, when she runs, not even a snow leopard can keep up with her. The key is she can be faster and last longer than a snow leopard. This was her earlier ability to traverse the martial world with ease. Just because of her snow leopard-like agile skills, she could single-handedly handle a gang or a small sect effortlessly. Who could have imagined that she, the dignified snow leopard from the snow mountain, would end up as a mount? But as soon as she thought that the top weapon in Tianzhou, Laying, was on the same level as her, the leopard print Aunt Shue suddenly felt much better. What she couldn't accept originally, she now accepted with pleasure. People, after all, need to compare. The mute girl was pointing out the way from above, looking very nervous. She looked about 30, but it wasn't until the Murong brothers asked that they found out she was only 23 this year. It can only be said that too many ordinary people in the world live tough lives. Busy their whole lives, eating poorly, sleeping little, and aging quickly. This is also the reason why so many people want to practice martial arts. In the martial world, as long as one succeeds in martial arts, they can turn the tide, from being oppressed and slaughtered like cattle and horses to oppressing and slaughtering others at will. What's more, besides becoming strong and turning the tide, practicing martial arts has many benefits, such as enhancing the bust and improving beauty. Take the Red Fish sect in Qingzhou. Almost everyone in the sect is well endowed. Some went in like steel plates, and even steel men came out well endowed. This is also why every time this sect is mentioned, the Jade Pearl heroes can't help looking at Shining, and Shining can't help flipping the table. If you don't practice martial arts, life is miserable and you're likely to be oppressed and killed. Practicing martial arts to success isn't easy. Mild cases go mad. Severe cases die suddenly. In the darkest times, becoming someone else's great medicine is common, and they will also be oppressed and killed by peers. But practicing it, in the end, brings hope. This is why, despite the considerable risks of practicing martial arts, everyone still wants to do it. Ever since the Murong brothers were sensible, they felt this was an unsolvable problem. In the martial world, one is often helpless. Both the common people and martial artists can't control their own destinies. But now, they found that this seemingly unsolvable problem seems to have a possible solution. When Duan Yun initially proposed Heroic Land, he thought it was absurd, just some game conjured up by old Demon Duan's wild imagination, and it wouldn't work. But now, Heroic Land actually seems to have become what Duan Yun described. Everyone has land to farm, everyone has food to harvest, everyone has money to make, so they don't need to drive themselves mad learning martial arts. Those who practice martial arts fear these heroes, so they don't dare act recklessly, which means there isn't much oppression and slaughter here. The piece of Heroic Land near Wangchun City was a small step created by Duan Yun, but it was a big step for their Jade Pearl heroes. This is something the Murong brothers feel excited and proud about whenever they think of it. They might become a greater existence than the Murong ancestor. A few years ago, they wouldn't have dared to even think about it, but now they have such thoughts. They, the Murong brothers, left the Murong family yet can still accomplish earth-shattering and Jianghu-shocking feats. This is also the reason why anyone daring to make trouble in this area will be punished no matter how far away they are. Under the guidance of the mute girl, the three Murong brothers quickly arrived at Lining Mountain. This is a mountain range on the edge of the fertile land outside Wangchun City. Because, regardless of spring, summer, autumn, or winter, the trees here are always lush, and the entire mountain forest is eerie, it was named Lining Mountain. Lining Mountain is close to the major city Wangchun City in Yun State and connected by a trade route, so it should be quite lively in theory, but Lining Town is not prosperous. The atmosphere in Lining Town is like this Lining Mountain, with people inside who don't like seeing outsiders, making the whole town appear eerie, so merchants and Jianghu guests choosing to pass through prefer the toil of traveling rather than staying in Lining Town, keeping it as it is. Today, the Murong brothers have no time to deal with why Lining Town isn't developing. They are searching for those causing mischief. According to the mute girl's description, she saw from a distance something dragging people into the woods. The Morong brothers estimated it was either robbers or beasts in the forest. But he felt that no ordinary bandits or beasts could handle such a group of armed escorts. Linning Mountain had incidents of beast attacks, but nothing this brutal. While pondering the mute girl's description, which seemed off to him, the truth revealed itself before his eyes. Scattered throughout this forest were some broken boxes and planks. These boxes were clearly those used by escorts to transport goods. Leopard Print and Shui crouched down, sniffed and said, "There are horse tracks here." The Morong brothers said, "Follow them and have a look." With dry leaves all over the forest, even with horse tracks, it was hard to find after some distance. Things difficult for the Morong brothers to find were no problem for Leopard Print and Shui. At that time, the Morong brothers and the mute girl had already dismounted from Leopard Print and Shui, because Snow Leopard said they were affecting her performance. Leopard Print and Shui was seen sniffing here and there, wearing a cleverly designed leopard print short skirt, truly resembling a mother leopard. Such women easily stir a man's primal desires. The Morong brothers had not been tempted for so long, not only because of his absolute loyalty to Ningqing, but because Leopard Print and Shui didn't match his aesthetic. Their small fame in the martial world was not because they were the young master of the Morong family, but because of their sister. Even after finding true love and escaping the curse of his sister, his aesthetic hadn't changed. If it's a sister, it has to be young. And Leopard Print and Shui is no longer young. This age, which is quite charming in other men's eyes, was a negative in the Morong brothers. He is always faithful, liking beauty, liking youth, and slightly older is unacceptable. Leopard Print and Shui sniffed for a while there and quickly determined the direction, continuing forward. The mountain forest was quiet and dark, making the mute girl a bit frightened. But with the Morong brothers accompanying her, she gradually calmed down. Amidst the sound of footsteps crushing fallen leaves, Leopard Print and Shui found a horse. This horse was still alive. It should be the yellow horse pulling the escort, still wearing a bridle. It was kneeling there, its right leg visibly injured. The Morong brothers said, "Go and ask Brother Horse's situation." Leopard Print and Shui disdainfully said, "What brother horse? This is Sister Horse." Upon seeing the Morong brothers, the yellow horse first showed a frightened expression. But as Leopard Print and Shui uttered a series of words that the Morong brothers and the mute girl didn't understand, the yellow horse strangely calmed down. Afterward, the horse made gurgling sounds. From here, it looked like the leopard and the horse were having an enjoyable conversation. At this moment, Leopard Print and Shui came over and said, "Sister Horse said they indeed encountered an attack, and the people quickly vanished. It ran away panicked." The Morong brothers asked, "What attacked them?" Leopard Print and Shui shook her head and said, "Not a beast, nor a human. Sister Horse doesn't know." The Morong brothers quipped, "If it's not a beast or a human, could it be a ghost?" Initially meant as a joking remark, this statement caused both Leopard Print and Shui and the mute girl to feel a chill. The forest was eerily gloomy, with only a few rays of daylight penetrating, as if hidden spirits truly lurked in the dark depths. Just then, the mute girl suddenly started to aba again. Leopard Print and Shui translated. She said she seemed to see a white blob at the time. A white blob. Suddenly, the mute girl started pointing aba at a direction in the forest. Leopard Print and Shui's face showed a fearful expression, saying, "She said that thing has come." The Morong brothers followed the mute girl's gaze, failing to notice anything at first glance. Then suddenly, a flesh-colored dark light shot out from behind a tree, coiling around the mute girl, pulling her inward sharply. "Damn!" The Morong brothers reacted extremely fast. One blurred step and they were already following. As they closed in on the mute girl, they could see that it seemed to be a fleshy intestine of some sort, inexplicably long, coiling around the mute girl's waist, intending to drag her away. The Morong brothers quickened their pace. The blood shadow mad blade was already out of its sheath. "Stay behind!" His blade was astoundingly fast, so much so that even Leopard Print and Shui couldn't see how he drew his blade. The Leopard Print and Shui, who once held the Morong brothers in disdain, now looked at him with respect. Because when some people draw their blades, their whole demeanor changes, becoming extraordinary. The Morong brothers were clearly such people. The Morong brothers' swift blades severed the intestines in one stroke, spraying foul-smelling blood. But in the next moment, the situation changed suddenly. As he grabbed the mute girl, bringing her over, the mute girl unexpectedly made a sudden move, stabbing a dagger towards the Morong brothers' abdomen. The angle of her strike was very tricky, unseen by the Morong brothers who pulled her over, and leopard print Aunt Shue, realizing this scene, wanted to give a shout of warning but was already too late. The mute girl's move was treacherous. The Morong brothers were completely unaware. Logically speaking, even if the mute girl used such a sneaky move, it shouldn't be possible to harm the Morong brothers, who are such experts, in the slightest. But this strike didn't seem like something a mute girl could deliver, or rather, this move in the martial world is a killing move among killing moves capable of killing experts. Why do the Tang sect's concealed weapons sell so expensively and yet so well? Why do the assassins of the Netherworld Mountain Villa make a fortune? Because they all represent treachery, and treachery gives the weak a chance to overcome the strong. The Morong brothers were focused on rescuing, completely unprepared for this. Thus they fell for it. The moment the short blade's edge touched the skin on his abdomen, his hair stood on end, and the protective true chi in his body automatically surged out to protect him. But this strike was simply too fast. It still pierced into the Morong brothers' flesh by an inch or so. The next moment, the protective true chi erupted like a gushing spring, sending the short blade and mute girl flying away. Yet at this moment, the Morong brothers' expression changed slightly. This minor injury, even if bleeding, shouldn't bother an expert like him, but at this moment, the mute girl chuckled crazily and said, "But my blade is poisoned." With that, she licked it once and died instantly. Her complexion changed. The Morong brother didn't hesitate. He shaved off a piece of flesh from the wound. "It's useless. It's useless." Sinister voices rang out continuously. The forest had already filled with many people. Some were floating in the air. Others appeared from behind trees, silent as ghosts. The Morong brother recognized them through their clothing. They should be those guards and medicine merchants. Have they turned into ghosts here? Behind the dark forest, more snow-white mists billowed. The mist was so white and dense that the Morong brother momentarily thought it was a strange ball of cotton. And through this, he saw clearly that these people weren't really floating but were being manipulated by long, thin blood tendrils connected to their bodies. They were being controlled by these things. The Morong brother originally intended to fight and retreat to observe the situation, but his opponents clearly had come prepared, surrounding him instantly. Could only be said that, from the very start, this was a conspiracy? The mute girl was one of them, or rather, the mute girl was controlled to lure him in. Since he was surrounded, the Morong brother no longer thought of escaping. If it's a fight you want, then let's fight. No matter if you're evil spirits or evil god. This young hero of mine isn't afraid of you. In leopard print Aunt Shue's eyes, she saw the Morong brother's chest suddenly puff up, his entire aura soaring. Even the fallen leaves at his feet seemed to fear his presence, retreating away. Bold fiend, how dare you flaunt your petty skills before a master? Crescent moon saber. In that instant, light flashed in leopard print Aunt Shue's eyes. If before she only had contempt for the Morong brother as a henpecked disciple, in this moment, she developed a sense of admiration for him. Because this saber and this aura were full of the strength of a potent expert. This older female leopard being mounted by such a strong presence, even if the strong presence looked ordinary, wasn't that difficult to accept. Then there was the sword light. The crescent moon-like sword light swept across the front. It wasn't particularly brilliant, nor earth-shattering, but it could effortlessly sever everything. This was the sharpest sword technique in the world, unrivaled for a long time. The sword light ethereal like the moonlight, yet incomparably sharp, instantly sliced through those blood tendrils. Those controlled fell to the ground but sprang up again, jumping over like zombies. The first big man jumped the fastest and in the blink of an eye was beside the Morong brother. The Morong brother could only sweep the blade, With a slash, as the blood shadow mad blade's blood-colored blade struck the opponent, he felt a tingling sensation. This sensation even carried a strong pleasure, making him want to strip and go wild. But at this moment, he certainly couldn't do that. The Murong brother resisted this strong pleasure. A flick, and the strong man's shoulder was severed. The whole body flipped to the ground without bleeding. At the same time, the Murong brother let out a sigh of comfort. In leopard print Aunt Shue's eyes, the Murong brother seemed to have reached a certain peak. Yes, like the peak one reaches between a man and a woman in bed. No, can you reach that just by slashing? Though she had just been full of admiration for the Murong brother, at this moment, she couldn't help but find it perverse. How can a fight turn out like this? The truth wasn't like that. Only the Murong brother within it knew he was merely calling out, not reaching that, showing how strong he was. If it were anyone else, they could reach that 10 times instantly. As a young hero on par with Duan Yun, the Murong brother had been through countless battles. Yet he never encountered such a weird situation. He could make others feel heartache like cutting with a knife, unwilling to sell out loved ones until the end. Yet he didn't expect this thing would make him delighted. Delighted to the point of wanting to burst out of his pants. But in the matter of life and death, especially among experts, such pleasure would only lead to trouble. The Murong brother immediately unleashed a thunder shock slash, bringing forth a series of violent blood shadow blade force, forcing the encroaching people back. At this time, some people rose into the air again, and only then did the Murong brother realize there were still blood tendrils under their feet, lifting them up. His earlier crescent moon saber hadn't severed all their blood tendrils. At this moment, the Murong brother couldn't help but touch his abdomen. He had just quickly dug out the flesh around his wound, but still felt the poison spreading. For someone of his skill level to be troubled by poison, it can only be said that this poison is truly potent. You're forcing me. The Murong brother flicked his blood shadow mad blade, assuming an aggressive stance. Leopard print Aunt Shue's eyes went wide. Was something big about to happen? At this moment, the Murong brother, in front of leopard print Aunt Shue, unleashed yet another powerful move, shouting, "Quick! Go fetch old Duan. Young hero Duan. Help me." Ha! Leopard print Aunt Shue was startled. And then, the people in the forest seemed to understand the Murong brothers' words, intending to surround leopard print Aunt Shue. Hurry up! Endless hatred! The Murong brother slashed out with his sword, a swirl of sword chi rolling, slicing these people in half, cutting off their path. But the next moment, the halved figures began to stand up again, piece by piece. Just as the Murong brother had anticipated, as long as they were connected by those blood-gut things, they wouldn't die. At this moment, a bearded man dressed as a dart player suddenly thrust his half-body forward, shouting, "Alan, I must go to you. Otherwise, I am in such pain." Another round-faced man gave a sideways glance, even with just one arm and a leg left. He quickly embraced a nearby dart player and they began gnawing on each other. The Murong brother immediately understood. They were becoming irrational. These semi-human, semi-ghost creatures were still affected by his sword intent. Then let this chaos escalate. Endless, 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 endless. Hatred. Among the hurried retreat, leopard print Aunt Shue couldn't help but glance back at the dense shouting of the Murong brother. Upon seeing it, she was startled. The dense fog in the forest seemed alive, surging towards the Murong brother, poised to engulf him. While the Murong brother raised his blade skyward, clearly the blood shadow mad blade bright red, it now suddenly emitted a rush of green aura. In an instant, she felt that the already verdant trees of Linine Mountain had become even greener. Leopard print Aunt Shue went down on all fours, truly becoming like a snow leopard, dashing swiftly through the forest. She dared not look back. Phew! With a gasp, leopard print Aunt Shue's eyes brightened up, realizing she had escaped that eerie and mysterious forest. She glanced back, still feeling unsettled. This should be one of the most bizarre and abnormal things she has encountered in her lifetime. Yes, one of After all, there were plenty of strange occurrences on the snow mountain, such as the snow grandma who supposedly eats and deceives children, but those she had only witnessed as an observer and had not personally experienced. Yet today, she was in the midst of this supernatural event. If it weren't for a master like the Murong brother being there, she might have been caught. Leopard Print Aunt Shui recovered, panting heavily. Yes, go find Duan Yun. Find Duan Yun. At this moment, a hint of hesitation arose in her heart. In the end, regardless of whether it was the Murong brother or Duan Yun, they were both her enemies. If not for these self-proclaimed martial heroes, she would still be the leader of a gang in Wangchun City, collecting silver, enjoying hot pot daily, and singing songs, with a Mo sect elder as her backup, living a carefree life. And all of this was disrupted by these people. She not only lost her lover, but also became a captive and a mount. Why should she help him at this moment? If the Murong brother died in there, wouldn't it be a good thing for her? But after a moment, Leopard Print Aunt Shui couldn't help but grit her teeth, cursing, I really owe you one. Saying this, she sprinted towards Wangchun City. Yes, she recalled the previous experience of discussing her fate in the cellar. If it weren't for the Murong brothers' insistence, she might have been killed directly by old demon Duan and the female demons. To some extent, the Murong brother had saved her life. Coupled with how he was truly helping her fend off those people, Leopard Print Aunt Shui ultimately decided to notify them. She was a snow leopard from the Holy Snow Mountain, clear on matters of gratitude and resentment. When Leopard Print Aunt Shui burst into Yuzhu Manor, Duan Yun was having lamb soup with Feng Linger and Ziyu. Half of the lamb was boiled in the pot while the other half was roasted on the side. This two-way lamb cooking in the cold winter was a rare treat. Leopard Print Aunt Shui burst in on all fours, moving at such speed that at first glance, she did seem like a wild leopard, causing Duan Yun and the others to think a leopard was coming to steal their lamb soup, causing them to protect the pot of lamb head soup and roasted lamb skewers behind them. The next moment, Leopard Print Aunt Shui collapsed onto the ground, nearly foaming at the mouth, saying, Quick! The Murong brother is in trouble. Leopard Print Aunt Shui had exhausted all her strength to rush back. She felt she had never moved so fast in her life. She was so fast because of a personal enemy, the life and death of a devoted admirer, seeming both absurd and ironic. Duan Yun instantly grasped the seriousness of the situation. He knew of the Murong brothers' abilities, and if anything had happened to him, it wouldn't be a trivial matter. He stood up and asked, Where? Leopard Print Aunt Shui, trembling all over from exhaustion, said, It's by Linning Mountain, but I can't run anymore. Duan Yun lifted her up and said, Just point the way. Saying this, he clasped her tightly, left foot stepping onto the right, flying off swiftly. Feng Linger, seeing this, lifted her sword and chased after him. Duan Yun's speed was incredible. Leopard Print Aunt Shui thought she ran back fast enough, but compared to Duan Yun it was insufficient. As a movement technique expert, she couldn't understand how stepping on one foot could make someone move so swiftly, only able to sigh at the vast skill difference. Her former lover, Li Mafei, had died at the hands of such a man, and it wasn't wrongful. The speed was so fast that Leopard Print Aunt Shui, responsible for guiding, couldn't make out the road ahead. She only felt everything speeding past her, a blur. It was clear that Duan Yun was eager, even giving her a sense of urgency akin to chasing after a husband for fear of missing him. Slow a bit. I can't discern the direction, Leopard Print Aunt Shui said. She had initially dashed out in extreme haste, relying purely on her snow leopard instincts. Now, finding her way back required more time. Leopard Print Aunt Shui said, I need to retrace the path. Saying this, she went down on all fours, sniffing like a dog, diving back into the forest. Duan Yun, seeing this, asked, Can you go any faster? On the way, he had briefly heard Leopard Print Aunt Shui's recount of the events and knew the situation was complicated. Leopard Print Aunt Shui complained, I've overexerted myself. Then I shall assist you. With that, Duan Yun extended his finger, shooting a bolt of electricity at Leopard Print Aunt Shui. Leopard print and Shui tightened her legs, trying to hold back the urge to pee, revitalized as if newly energized. Yes, Duan Yun was stimulating her potential. This technique had been used on Little Een before. But in comparison to Little Een, due to sudden circumstances, his approach was more forceful. Leopard print and Shui hurriedly searched for the path while feeling the intense stimulation in her body, feeling like an invisible whip was urging her to speed up. In this moment, she suddenly felt the usually unimpressive Morong brother was quite gentle. People really are discerned through comparison. Under Duan Yun's electric finger, leopard print Aunt Shue's hair stood on end, quickly getting into gear. As she dashed through the indistinguishable forest, the hints quickly became evident. Two men dressed as dart players, clinging to each other, rolling in the fallen leaves. If they weren't missing limbs and clearly dead, Duan Yun might have thought they were two men getting intimate in a small patch of woods. "This is the place," leopard print Aunt Shui said. There were some foul-smelling fluids on the ground, a bluish color, unlike human blood, along with some incomplete corpses, but no sign of the Morong brother. However, he could sense the Morong brother's sword intent. A fierce battle had taken place here, to the point that the Morong brothers' sword intent still lingered, causing the surrounding vegetation to appear vividly green, as if freshly washed. Duan Yun followed this sword intent and abruptly came to a halt. He saw a cloud at the base of a hillside, a cloud resting on the ground. That cloud stood there, as if waiting for him. There lay a cloud beneath the hillside. People often use black clouds pressing the city about to collapse to describe the dense, low-hanging clouds. But to see a cloud truly and distinctly lie on the ground was something Duan Yun was witnessing for the first time. This cloud was not black. It was very white, almost indistinguishable from the white clouds in the sky. Yet when it settled on the ground, lodged there, it gave off an eerie chill. How to describe this feeling? Every entity in the world has its rightful place, like humans belong in the human world, and ghosts belong in the netherworld. But now, this cloud felt as if a living person had ventured into the netherworld, or a ghost had come to the human world. Strange, subtly terrifying. Wrapped in a thick cloud, unsure of what's hidden within. Duan Yun had entered clouds many times. He had climbed up to the sky's clouds several times, and last time even caught an ostrich. But this time, this cloud on the ground made his expression solemn. Nevertheless, Duan Yun did not linger because he thought the Morong brothers might have entered, their lives uncertain, so he needed to hurry to find them. Aunt Shui in leopard print was clearly scared by this cloud. Duan Yun waved his hand, saying, "You hide first, if possible. Let Shining and the others support us from outside." "Okay," Aunt Shui in leopard print said, skillfully retreating backward. She always felt this cloud was more terrifying than the netherworld. And at this moment, Duan Yun had already walked into that cloud. He wanted to see the difference between this cloud on the ground and those in the sky. In the instant his body penetrated into the white cloud, Duan Yun's hairs stood on end. He heard some extremely fine buzzing sounds. It was the sound of electricity. Old Demon Duan. The day of accumulating thunder will be the time of your demise. Duan Yun clearly remembered the words from the electricity within that man while he was being treated. If he guessed correctly, this should be the trick of the Thunder God and Mother. He had always suspected that the Thunder God and Mother were hiding in the clouds above Wangchun City, so he had climbed up to search several times, only to find nothing. And now it seems the opponent should be here. No wonder he couldn't find them. Who would think that clouds could be on the ground? Duan Yun estimated that the so-called Day of Accumulating Thunder should be the time of dense lightning, which typically would not occur until the thunder-rich seasons of spring and summer. But the Thunder God and Mother were a bit more aggressive than he imagined, causing trouble in this cold winter. Winter thunder in Yun State is typically scarce, but within this cloud, white clouds are usually neither rain clouds nor thunder clouds. Yet at this moment, Duan Yun was already getting drenched and could hear thunder. He used the pupil skill, prying clouds and seeing the sun, and after walking a distance, found the clouds dissipated by themselves. Or, in other words, These clouds here were not like those in the sky. When entered, they were densely blinding and stayed that way. But here, the clouds varied in thickness, and after passing through a thick layer, they suddenly thinned. Surrounding and above was still thick cloud, but the space before him had clouds as thin as mist, thus forming a room-like space encased by white clouds. What made Duan Yun feel odd was that beneath his feet was a paved stone road. The stone was carved with lotus patterns, intricately crafted. As he walked step by step forward, the scenery ahead grew more and more spectacular. At the end of the stone path was a lotus pond. Above this lotus pond stood a giant white jade bridge, broad enough for 8 horse-drawn carriages to travel side by side. Walking alone, Duan Yun felt a sense of insignificance. This insignificance wasn't just due to the bridge's size, but also the lotus flowers. The lotus flowers in this pond were unknown strange species, each standing 2 to 3 people tall, with blossoms outrageously large. This gave Duan Yun the sense that these flowers were there to devour people. At this moment, the mist flowed around, coupled with the jade bridge and lotus, indeed invoking a feeling of Yaoqi Immortal Palace. Or, one might say, in Duan Yun's past life, he had seen many TV shows related to Yaoqi Immortal Palace, none of which could compare to this in the slightest. If the Yaoqi Immortal Palace truly exists, it would probably look like this. Walking on this white jade bridge, Duan Yun even felt a sense of inferiority. As if this bridge was supposed to be trodden by immortals, walking upon it felt somewhat inappropriate, akin to a person accustomed to street food suddenly eating a grand feast in the celestial realms, understandably a bit uneasy. But this discomfort was fleeting. This road was meant for immortals. If they could tread it, why couldn't the young hero? To dare provoke the young hero, even the immortals would face his wrath. Duan Yun quickened his pace. With every step he took, sword intent and sword intent were honed within their respective sheaths. The lotus flowers that initially seemed alive and inclined toward the jade bridge seemed somewhat frightened by his sword energies, tilting their heads slightly. Beyond the white jade bridge was a series of white jade stairs. The white jade stairs extended deep into the cloud. Looking deep into the clouds, there was a faint golden glow, as if a gigantic immortal god was looming over. Rumble. At this moment, the thunder grew more pronounced, deafening. The clouds flanking the white jade stairs churned, revealing enormous outlines. These outlines were immense, resembling the legendary immortals and arhats. Accompanied by the vast thunder, it seemed as if the immortal gods were expressing anger. If an ordinary martial artist witnessed such a scene, they would likely be petrified with fear or perish from fright on the spot. Duan Yun wasn't terrified but bore this pressure. This pressure was exceedingly tangible even to him, and if the Murong brothers were inside, he wondered whether they could endure it. Reaching this point, he could no longer sense the Murong brothers' green sword intent. Or rather, since arriving near the white jade bridge, he hadn't felt anything, as if the Murong brothers had vanished into thin air right there. Thinking of the Murong brothers, Duan Yun quickened his pace. He soon entered the clouds of the white jade stairs, and this made the previously blurred outlines of the celestial beings become clear. These were figures with giant-like stature, swirling lights around them, vibrant garments, exuding immortal energy. But their heads weren't human. They were of various animals. It's estimated that the 12 zodiac animals were all there, with some being particularly terrifying, like dragons, snakes, rats, and ducks, all with round faces and pointed chins. These immortal gods with animal heads stood there, staring at Duan Yun, thunder booming around them, as if ready to strike him to ashes with a heavenly tribulation at any moment. Duan Yun felt an invisible heaviness on him, like an unseen specter pressing down, making him somewhat uncomfortable. He knew it was likely the aura of an extremely powerful entity. Upon reaching there, on either side of the jade stone stairs, were piles of statues of immortal gods. All these statues had human bodies and animal heads. Some had horse faces with pockmarked faces, some looked like upturned-nosed skinnies, and some had round faces and pointed chins, all hideously ugly. To some extent, this reflected the ridiculously distorted aesthetic of the place's owner. In front, there was a great outpouring of golden light, and the clouds dissipated, revealing a massive golden figure. It was a woman with a round face and pointed chin, with 2 golden ropes tied around her, binding something resembling a merit wheel to her back. The golden light was emanating from that merit wheel, dazzlingly bright. In the face of this golden radiance, the woman looked down with disdain as if she ruled over everything as an immortal god. Seeing Duan Yun, she spoke, "Since you've met the mother, why don't you bow?" The enormous pressure surged forward. The golden light from the woman's back intensified, causing cracks under Duan Yun's advancing steps on the jade stairs. "Why don't you bow? Why don't you bow?" The surrounding celestial beings with animal heads all scolded in unison, their voices overlapping. "Bow to your spicy wall. Bow to your dead fat pig face? Has no one told your mother that you're unspeakably ugly? It's a wonder your mother didn't pinch you to death seeing you look like this." Duan Yun lashed out with a torrent of curses, all genuine, without the least bit of tactic. Such words ironically had the most impact, as the once godlike oppressive aura was shattered. The round-faced fat woman's face alternated between red and green. Unable to contain herself, she let out an ugly pig-like shriek. Ah! She was infuriated. In her rage, the sky roiled with clouds. Rumble. Tremendous bursts of electricity fell. The lightning seemed like dragons, making it hard for Duan Yun to distinguish whether it was lightning or dragons. The thunder dragon roared down from the clouds, charging at Duan Yun. The Huangshan golden sword in Duan Yun's hand was already unsheathed. He raised it up. This raise wasn't to slay the dragon, but instead acted like a lightning rod. The Huangshan golden sword connected with Duan Yun was swiftly swallowed by the thunder dragon. The white jade stairs instantly cracked and charred. Fire ignited on the jade, and Duan Yun within seemed as though he would be turned to ashes. After the thunder dragon struck the ground, the lightning waves surged in all directions, like a sea. When the dense dust and smoke dissipated, it revealed Duan Yun's bare upper body. Holding the scorching Huangshan golden sword, he burped and said, "This electricity is quite pure. Any more to come?" When heading to Laizhou, Duan Yun had used the heavenly thunder body charge in a small town beneath Snow Mountain. It could only be said that his body's capacity for containing lightning was already strong, but the electricity still seemed insufficient, so every spring and summer, Duan Yun would seek chances to recharge. Just now, his body, already low on electrical power, was fully charged by the thunder dragon's power of lightning. Now every cell of his was filled with the power of thunder and lightning. If it weren't that the demon electricity within his body was domineering enough to devour and assimilate most of the attracted lightning, Duan Yun might have overflowed with electricity, foaming at the mouth. At this moment, with a flick of his hand, the excess lightning overflowed from his body, forming tiny electric dragons swirling around him. After such a strike, not only was Duan Yun unharmed, he even transformed the lightning for his own use, making the thunder god and mother, and those immortal gods, reveal peculiar expressions. And Duan Yun continued asking, "I'm asking you, where are the Murong brothers? If they are just a bit short of hair, later when I kill you, I'll go light on you." The round-faced, pointed-chin thunder god and mother's body shivered. The golden light from the merit wheel on her back intensified. She laughed. "Old demon Duan, since you are so eager to know where he is, accompany him. This mother shall entomb you within the divine statue." As she spoke, she extended her hand. A thunder giant hammer appeared in her hand. With a wave of the thunder god and mother's hand, the eerie blue hammer powered by lightning radiated golden sparks. The electric light formed into a large golden blade, slashing towards Duan Yun with unrestrainable speed. As Duan Yun moved, the electric light blade followed suit. At that moment, Duan Yun had realized that this blade was alive, and it wouldn't be easy to dodge. Once swordsmanship reaches a high level, sword chi is inherently alive and can move at one's will. Since it was hard to evade, there was no need to dodge. Heart-to-heart clasp. Duan Yun's sword and blade simultaneously unsheathed, forming a clamp shape, clamping onto the golden electric light. With a boom, a shockwave rolled. The knife light honed from the golden electric light was clamped, yet the knife light continued sweeping to the side. Duan Yun's feet slid, shattering the ground, sliding backward. As a thud was heard, under the gaze of all the immortal gods, this man who feared not the thunder was slammed into the god statue beside the jade stone stairs. Although the god statue suffered a heavy blow, it wasn't damaged. Rather, it was intact in locking up Duan Yun. Ha ha ha! A mere mortal dares to contend against the mother. Mother, mother, heaven and earth, I alone am supreme. At this time, a rat-headed immortal was particularly enthusiastic, even pulling out a flute to play. However, in the next moment, a boom was heard. The statue initially imprisoning Duan Yun suddenly and violently expanded like swelling dough. You demon! Think you can trap Grandpa this way? With a bang! The statue exploded. Most of its fragments turned into streaks of light, striking the rat-headed immortal's face, turning him into a smoking pockmarked face, making him howl in pain. One of the statues, observing this scene, wore a look of shock. This expression naturally belonged to the Murong brothers. Yes, he was trapped inside this strange statue. Doesn't make sense, we're both renowned young heroes. If young hero Duan can break free, why can't I? Break for me. Having escaped, Duan Yun soared into the sky, arriving above the round-faced thunder god and mother. Mediocre skills, yet you dare to show off. In a moment, after I've finished chopping you up, I'll shove you into a pigsty. 10-layered. Spring rain. With a flick of the dark blue famous blade in Duan Yun's hand, 10-layered spring rain sword chi symbolizing suffering turned into dense red lines, piercing towards the round-faced thunder god and mother. The red lines, like red rain, covered a massive area. But the round-faced thunder god and mother seemingly was an agile heavy-duty tank woman. Her feet moved the clouds beneath her, propelling her in an almost cloud-riding manner, at amazing speed. With her speed, it seemed she could escape before the red rain fell. However, 2 breaths later, a horrified pig slaughter-like scream was heard. Moments ago, the golden electric light she slashed was alive. How could Duan Yun's 10-layered spring rain be dead? As she was fleeing, a gust of wind arose in the red rain, transforming into a biased directional wind rain. This sidestep precisely hit the thunder god and mother's escape path, shredding her into a sieve. Perhaps it's because the thunder god and mother had a very loud voice. The cries were so miserable they pierced Duan Yun's eardrums with pain. At this moment, her already exceedingly fat body began to swell. Seeing this, Duan Yun couldn't help but mutter, "This dead fat woman's not gonna explode, is she?" Amidst the interweaving of Duan Yun's 10-layered spring rain red line blade chi, the round-faced fat woman, the thunder god and mother, let out a shriek like a sow, and her whole body, already as round as a ball, began to swell, like an inflating balloon. Duan Yun knew the pain of his sword technique. After all, the sensation of every cell in the body feeling like it's giving birth is indeed not ordinary, continuous and intense, which is why many cities in Yu State turn pale at the mention of his name. The many weak men and women now appearing in Yu State are all aftereffects of Duan Yun's painful sword intent. It's a spiritual suffocation more terrifying than killing directly, leaving those struck to live forever in the shadow of that day's agony. But even with that pain, there was never a case where someone would explode from it. Yes, on that day he made half of Yishui City suffer, observed all sorts of punished individuals, but had never seen such a case. The next moment, only a loud cry of "Ah!" was heard, akin to the cry of a newborn entering the world. The thunder god and mother truly exploded, or rather, it could be said she gave birth. The flesh and blood she burst forth were like newborns, emitting a golden glow, charging toward Duan Yun. Duan Yun was startled and quickly retreated, because he clearly saw this was the fat from this woman, and the thought of it made him feel disgusted. If the previous sword intent was alive, then this electrified fat now seemed alive as well, with some spiritual quality, rushing towards Duan Yun en masse. Faced with these menacing fats, Duan Yun could only swing his blade to slash. Bang, bang, bang. The moment the blade touched these golden fat clusters, a terrifying explosion occurred instantly. These fat pieces were like bombs exploding upon contact. These bombs were even chain-linked. Once one exploded, the next followed closely. In an instant, golden fat flew wildly, accompanied by terrifying thunderous explosions, turning the clouds and jade steppes into a golden hue. Afterward, they shattered, turning into smoke and dust. Explosion. Explosion is beauty. Ultimate beauty. With her fat blown away and her body now much thinner, the thunder god and mother yelled in a frenzied state. Duan Yun was already submerged in that explosion. From the expression on the thunder god and mother's face, Duan Yun was undoubtedly dead. How can mere mortals hope to survive her ultimate beauty? Blow your ugly face and ugly body to smithereens. She detested such ugly mortals. Let the round face, pointed chin, upturned nose, and horse face alone be beautiful, whether above the skies or beneath the earth. The explosion continued for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, with the surrounding clouds rolling endlessly, an intimidating spectacle. Duan Yun, trapped within the statue, the Murong brothers saw this scene, their eyes turning red. Simultaneously, the sword intent around them was rapidly climbing. The uncertain fate of Duan Yun invoked the potential within the Murong brothers. Thump, thump, the statue that confined him began to swell violently like fermenting dough. The once solid sculpture, now stretched large enough, appeared like a membrane. Roar! With a bang, the statue completely shattered, revealing the figure of the Murong brothers shaking their green hair wildly. Ugly fat woman, taste my blade. Heaven and earth, sun and moon slash. At that moment, the Murong brothers seemed to split in two. The sword intent clearly delineated like rivers. The left side sword intent milky white, rich and pure. That was a night listening to spring rain. The right side sword intent was green, the ultimate, this hatred endless knife. Almost simultaneously, two utterly distinct sword intents, like flying together, whirled forth, bringing forth a terrifying roar. As the sword light whirled by, the air was shredded into flurries, forming a two-colored turbulent flow, sweeping away the residual golden explosions, and the momentum continued, sweeping straight towards the thunder god and mother. Ah! The thunder god and mother let out another soul-like cry, leaping high into the air. Though much of her fat had exploded, she still had a significant frame, resembling a meat tank. As she leaped up, her legs suddenly clamped down. With a loud snap, her immensely fat legs clamped down on the flying together sword chi. The Murong brothers' heaven and earth, sun and moon slash sword chi had already attained a spiritual level. The sword chi, congealed yet untouchable, even when clamped, continued struggling frantically, akin to beloved Taoist couples forcibly held by this fat woman in the eyes of the Murong brothers. Ugly fat woman, let go of my sword chi. The thunder god and mother clearly cared about discussions of beauty and ugliness, clamping down even tighter, with golden lightning surging within her fat, seemingly about to blow the sword chi apart. Damn it! The Murong brothers swung the blade again, wielding a crescent moon saber. But the thunder god and mother had an impressive movement technique, dodging to the side while clamping the sword chi, managing to avoid it. Watching his sword chi about to be clamped to explosion, the Murong brothers felt helpless, yet felt a sense of powerlessness before an injustice, their eyes growing greener. At this moment, a black sword energy column roared out, the sword chi as dark as ink, carrying a netherworld aura, with thunderfire flowing around. Thunderfire sword. With a bang, the Thunderfire sword unexpectedly collided with the Murong brothers' sword chi. In this instant, rather than weakening each other, the Thunderfire sword and the heaven and earth, sun and moon slashes sword chi spurred each other, producing a wondrous reaction. Explode! The Thunderfire sword and heaven and earth, sun and moon slash exploded together, black and red sword chi mixing with white and green sword chi, like opening a dying workshop. The thunder god and mother, clamping with all her might, had her crotch blasted apart, fat soaring, accompanied by her wails. At this moment, amidst the swirling clouds, Duan Yun revealed his figure. His hair already curled from the explosion, with several scorched patches on his right arm. Since mastering the 10-layered spring rain, Duan Yun had rarely encountered effective resistance. He hadn't expected this move to be so easily countered by this fat woman, let alone face such a terrifying counterattack. The Murong brothers, seeing this, exclaimed with joy, "You're really all right." Duan Yun laughed and said, "You're really inside the statue? Why are you only coming out now?" The Murong brothers wanted to tell the truth, that they simply couldn't come out without being provoked, but thinking it too shameful, they couldn't help but boast, "Big shots always enter the stage later." Upon hearing this boast, Duan Yun couldn't help laughing. The sword chi of big shots even gets pinched and bursts. Bullshit. My sword chi gets stronger the more it's pinched. If you hadn't intervened, she would have almost been bounced to death. Duan Yun asked, "Really? Of course it's true. You two ugly fools, shut up." With a furious roar from Thunder God and Mother, the entire space trembled. At the same time, clouds from all sides gathered, with countless lightning dragons roaming between. It was perhaps no less than a true heavenly tribulation. Seeing this, Duan Yun said, "Since your sword chi intensifies when pinched, this time you go." Saying so, he already shielded the Murong brothers in front of him. The Murong brothers, faced with the roaring heavenly thunder, startled, said, "What? Am I going to fight this? No way. Duan, relay it, relay it." Right then, Thunder God and Mother's angry roar echoed. 8 heavenly dragons, Thunder Universe. Saying so, her whole body trembled as if her flesh and blood were bubbling, with thunder light running through. Golden thunder light suddenly stretched upwards, forming chains connecting with the thunder dragons. The thunder dragons in the clouds revealed their heads, each one enormous. The thunder dragons roared. As their mouths opened, terrifying electricity was already revolving. The Murong brothers gritted their teeth and drew their swords. "This dragon head is so large, you expect me to hold this?" Roar, roar, roar. 8 thunder dragons roared together, as did the Murong brothers, with the blood shadow mad blade in their hands shaking into a blur. The Murong brothers couldn't help shouting, "Duan, should we tighten the wind and avoid the edge for now?" As a green saber young hero on par with Duan Yun, the Murong brothers had rarely had thoughts of avoiding the sharp edge in the past 1 or 2 years. Yes, before, even when facing a grandmaster, Murong young hero had rushed in with sword drawn. But at this moment, he felt that the thing before him was unbeatable. Or rather, how could a person fight against a god? The next moment, the Murong brothers' bodies tightened, lunging forward. He realized he couldn't escape. The 8 thunder dragons opened their mouths, forming a bag shape centered on Thunder God and Mother. And this bag produced a strong suction force, intending to pull him in. Not even the Murong brothers, even Duan Yun, didn't anticipate that this move would be an attraction. Previously, it had been moves like thunder laser cannons. At this time, the mouth of the thunder bag tightened, and even though Murong brothers used the move rooted to the ground, they still couldn't withstand it. With a swoosh, his whole body and the jade steps beneath him flew toward the bag's mouth. Through here, one could see lightning traversing in the bag. The lightning was red, or rather, like it was mixed with blood plasma. Once inside, not even bones would remain. "Ning Qing, I love you," the Murong brothers cried out. At this moment, he couldn't help but recall the epic life he's had, finding true love after several ill-fated romances. His first kiss still intact, and now he's about to be finished. He knew he couldn't escape, just hoping that Duan Yun could. Right then, a nearby jade step shattered, and he discovered that Duan Yun was also sucked to the side. "How did even you not manage to escape?" the Murong brothers shouted. He thought with Duan Yun's methods, plus the gesture of shielding him in front, there should be a chance to escape. But old Demon Duan was truly disappointing. Just then, Duan Yun shouted, "Escape what hammer? Charge!" With that, he flew toward the mouth of the bag head-on. The mouth of this thunder bag looked like a ferocious bloody mouth, ready to mercilessly consume Duan Yun and the Murong brothers. Turn into blood in my Chenkuan bag. The suction of the Chenkuan bag tightened. Seeing that Duan Yun was about to fall in, the Murong brothers couldn't help but lament, "It's over!" But almost simultaneously, a sizzling electric sound abruptly rose. Originally, the thunder dragons roared, and this Chenkuan bag was already a massive electric field. The electric sound was astonishingly loud. Yet at this moment it couldn't cover this new electric sound, because this new electric sound was emitted by Duan Yun. Damn it, electromagnetic sword field activate. 100,000 horses. Duan Yun's electromagnetic sword field had already expanded, directly propping open the mouth of the bag. The Murong brothers, who were speeding forward, suddenly halted, as they had fallen into Duan Yun's sword field, their figures controlled by the field. No, it wasn't entirely the sword field's doing. They were being pulled by two forces. Duan Yun's sword field wanted to fix them in place, while the Chenkuan bag wanted to suck them in. This sensation was unbearable, as if their bodies and souls were being torn apart. However, the Murong brothers were geniuses at finding pleasure in pain, imagining themselves as being fought over by two beauties, each desiring them. Now it wasn't so unbearable, quite enjoyable. In fact, Duan Yun's eyes were already crackling with electricity. He said, "These 8 heavenly dragons, Chenkuan bag, are just your field. Let's see whose field is bigger. Damn it! Keep that electromagnetic sword field rotating. 200,000 horses. Rumble." This time, over 100 electric swords were arrayed around the electromagnetic sword field, forming an array that resonated with each other. The originally contracted mouth of the bag was suddenly expanded more than twice its size. The Murong brothers snapped out of their beauty contest daydream because one of the pulling forces had weakened. The larger the electromagnetic sword field became, the weaker the suction from the Chenkuan bag. Do mortals want to contend with the 8 heavenly dragons? Out! Rumble! Blood-colored electric lights like serpents moved in the Chenkuan bag, forming a giant vortex. This caused Duan Yun's electromagnetic sword field to become unstable, and the electric swords arranged around the sword array began to waver. Seeing this, the Murong brothers quickly pulled out the blood shadow mad blade and wildly slashed into the interior of the bag. The pale green and white sword light thudded into the vortex like ripples on a disturbed lake, limited in its impact. Duan Yun's forehead veins bulged as he cursed, "Damn it! Still not enough." The electromagnetic sword field he controlled was nearing its limit. But it wasn't enough. Extraordinary wisdom. I order you to solve everything. Duan Yun unleashed the maximum amount of demon electricity he could muster, disregarding the damage it caused to his body's meridians. Because the enemy before him was strong enough that he couldn't hold back. Boom, boom, boom. More electric swords formed, enveloped in flame, igniting. In the glimpses the Murong brothers caught while turning back, Duan Yun, crackling with electricity, seemed ominously covered in red feathers. No way. The ancestors of the Murong family only met ill fate in their later years, yet at your young age you've become ominous. This was the manifestation of Duan Yun's body pushed to its limits. As the electric swords blazed, the electromagnetic sword field turned red. It continued to expand, leaving nothing in reserve. Every time the Chenkuan bag's mouth expanded, one sword from his sword array would fall. But he pressed on relentlessly. "I'm going to expand you into a big horn that can hold nothing." He pushed outward while Thunder God and Mother contracted inward. One attacking, one defending, as if locked in a battle of endurance. In truth, the contest's duration was brief, even short. Yet for Duan Yun within the sword field, it felt interminably long. Despite his continuous expansion, appearing aggressive, he knew this couldn't last. And though Thunder God and Mother seemed to be sweating, she appeared to have plenty of reserves. Because within this cloud, it was her turf. Duan Yun gave the Murong brothers a look and a wink, and they suddenly understood his intent. Duan Yun wanted them to attack Thunder God and Mother. But trapped here, how could they attack Mother? Unless Duan Yun intended to fully open the bag? Which didn't seem likely. As the flaming electric swords fell and the expanded sword field struggled to maintain itself. Covered in red feathers, what could you do? Thunder God and Mother watched it all. She could feel that in less than 15 minutes, victory would be hers. Just then, as the thunder swords from the sword array collapsed and flames spread, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers stumbled, falling into the Chenkuin bag. Thunder God and Mother couldn't help but rejoice. Secure.